Chapter 1086. The Dragon Saliva Ancient Wine was the unique spirit wine of the Hui Dragon clan. It had the fragrance of hundreds of fruits on the first taste and the burning sensation of the west wind in the throat when drunk. If it was served in a luminous goblet, there would be the radiance of the sun and the moon shining in the goblet. It was elegant and beautiful. In terms of type, it could be considered a kind of medicinal wine. It was very beneficial for healing injuries. A single jar was very valuable, let alone 1,000 jars. If it wasn't because of the benefits of this wine, Long Three Hammers would never let the injured Ning Fan drink 1,000 jars of wine as punishment. This wine was beneficial to the injured. Although it was called a punishment, it was actually a kind gesture. Considering that Ning Fan's alcohol tolerance was limited, Long Three Hammers did not really plan to let Ning Fan drink 1,000 jars of ancient wine in one go. Firstly, he was afraid that Ning Fan would not be able to handle the nourishment. Secondly, he was afraid that Ning Fan would be drunk to death. Long Three Hammers' original intention was for him who had an unparalleled alcohol tolerance to drink around 950 jars while Ning Fan who could not handle as much as him could only drink 50 jars. This was the limit of Ning Fan's alcohol tolerance that he estimated. This limit was deliberately arranged according to the last time when Ning Fan got drunk. To a certain extent, he had actually underestimated Ning Fan's alcohol tolerance. However, Emperor Tu's seemingly unintentional words made the heroic Long Three Hammers almost choke to death on the wine. Feeling depressed, he immediately left the banquet and went into seclusion to rebuild his physical body. He was afraid that there would be repercussions if his left arm was regenerated too late. As a result, the huge banquet with a total of 1,000 jars of ancient wine was left for Ning Fan and his group to drink. That annoying old man is gone. Ning Fan, we will drink by ourselves. Today, I want to prove to you that my alcohol tolerance is very good when I'm serious. All right, let your little lover out so we can drink together. Emperor Tu seemed to be unintentional and suggested. Ning Fan was speechless. Why didn't you mention that you killed the Hui Dragon earlier? You are helping the Hui Dragon clan to get rid of evil? You didn't ask me, did you? Emperor Tu smiled innocently. He would never admit that he was deliberately making fun of Long Three Hammers. Who asked Long Three Hammers to exchange hundreds of punches with Ning Fan as soon as he entered the cave. My little butterfly's injuries have worsened. Shouldn't I be punished? Forget it. I will apologize to Brother Long later. Ning Fan felt a headache when facing the black-bellied Emperor Slayer. At the same time, he felt an indescribable familiarity with this kind of unpretentious Emperor Slayer. When Emperor Slayer was scheming, it gave him the feeling of being with the little demoness again. When Emperor Tu was being arrogant, he seemed to have seen Bei Xiaoman and Yu Lingkong. When Emperor Tu was protecting Luo Yu, he seemed to have seen Luo Yu standing behind him. When he killed Huang Wuxia, he seemed to have seen Ji He and Mu Weiliang. Previously, he had only thought that the strange closeness and trust he felt towards the Butcher Emperor was because of the Sword Ancestor's affection. But now, he faintly felt that this was not the case. In the end, under Sovereign Tu's suggestion, Ning Fan opened up a crack in the profound Yin world and summoned Zhang Yu, Ouyang Nuan and the Black Devil who were injured during the battle on the Sacred Mountain. They then joined the banquet. Originally, he wanted to call Old Crow 8 out as well, but Emperor Tu directly threw out 2 wine jars, smashing Old Crow 8, who had just walked out of the profound Yin world's crack, back into the profound Yin world. He fell flat on his face. When Old Crow 8 was bullied, he subconsciously wanted to scold someone. However, when he saw that the thing that hit him was actually 2 jars of dragon saliva wine with overwhelming spiritual qi, he was instantly overjoyed. Saliva flowed out of his mouth and 90% of his resentment disappeared on the spot. When he looked at the person who hit him again, he was actually a half-step quasi-sage realm expert, Emperor Slayer. What a good fellow. He immediately resigned himself to the situation. Even the last trace of resentment disappeared. Instead, he began to flatter Emperor Slayer. Good luck to the new mistress. Little 8 thanks the new mistress for the reward. You may dispense with the formalities. I don't like to drink with strange men. You, continue to stay in your master's realm treasure space and drink by yourself. If it's not enough, I will give you 2 more jars. Anyway, don't disturb us. Emperor Slayer generously threw 2 more jars to Old Crow 8. Old Crow 8 immediately returned to the profound Een world with a smile. He found a place where no one was around and began to gulp down the spiritual wine. Not long after, he was dead drunk on the ground and fell into a deep sleep. Even in his sleep, he did not blame Emperor Slayer for smashing him with the wine jars. Instead, he regretted that Emperor Slayer did not smash a few more jars so that he could get more benefits. People are so despicable. There is no cure for them. They are already beyond cure. Thus, Ning Fan was the only man left in the entire banquet. Other than him, there were also Emperor Slayer, Zhang Yu, Ouyang Wan, Duo Lan and the Black Devil. The 5 of them surrounded Ning Fan like stars surrounding the moon. They kept urging him to drink, but of course, they could not get him drunk. The strength of the ancient wine was too strong. Ouyang Wan and Duo Lan got drunk very quickly. They leaned on the table and talked drunkenly. Then, it was the Black Devil's turn. Even though this little girl was already an adult and possessed a cultivation base comparable to a quasi-emperor, she could not withstand the alcohol and was soon knocked out as well. In the end, even Zhang Yu was drunk. Half of her clothes were undone. She was sleeping soundly at the side, but she did not talk nonsense. Even though she was usually a little brainless, her drunken state was actually the best. One of them was Ning Fan and the other one was unexpectedly Emperor Slayer. It was unknown when Emperor Slayer had sat beside Ning Fan. The 2 of them sat side by side. They did not talk much and just drank the ancient wine to their heart's content. The number of empty wine jars at the side gradually increased. However, both of them had an amazing capacity for alcohol. None of them got drunk. Ning Fan had comprehended the essence of wine. His capacity for alcohol was extremely strong. In fact, part of the reason why he got drunk by Long Sanchue was because he wanted to get drunk. If he did not want to get drunk, he would not get drunk at all with just 100 jars of 1 million years old ancient wine. What Ning Fan did not expect was that Emperor Slayer, who could get drunk with just a drop of wine in the Fire Spirit Tower, actually had such a good capacity for alcohol. She actually did not get drunk after drinking more than 100 jars of ancient wine. This gave Ning Fan a new understanding of Emperor Slayer's capacity for alcohol. It turned out that her capacity for alcohol was really not bad. The reason why she could not handle the alcohol that day was really because her strength was limited after entering the Fire Spirit Tower. How is it? I didn't lie to you, right? My capacity for alcohol is really good. Emperor Slayer's face was flushed red. Her beautiful eyes were so clear that water could drip out of them. Her red lips had the luster of the wine. Under the light, she looked indescribably beautiful. Your capacity for alcohol is really good. I have underestimated you in the past. Do you admit defeat? I've said before that I will find a chance to compete with you in terms of drinking capacity in the future. Today is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Do you dare to compete with me in terms of drinking capacity regardless of the consequences? Your body is still weak. You don't dare? Or are you afraid that you will be eaten by me after you get drunk? Emperor Slayer raised Ning Fan's chin and deliberately provoked him. Ning Fan smiled and shook his head. He slapped Emperor Slayer's hand away and did not answer her question. He just drank another jar of wine. After he was done, he asked, "What are you hiding from me exactly? I can feel that you don't mean any harm by hiding it from me. However, I still mind it a little and want to ask you clearly." Emperor Slayer's eyes dimmed. She did not answer him and just finished another jar of ancient wine. If she did not want to answer a question, she would not answer it even if she died. She would never tell Ning Fan about something that was about to die and cause him trouble. Ning Fan sighed and stopped asking. Then he said again, "If you don't want to tell me, you probably have some difficulties. I won't make things difficult for you. If there's anything that I can help you with, tell me." "You can't help me. There's no need to mention this again. You just need to drink with me and get drunk with me," Emperor Slayer said with a smile. "All right. You can't not get drunk on purpose? All right. Awesome. This is the little butterfly that I like. Let's finish this jar. This is the one that you drank from. The rouge mark is still there. What are you afraid of? We are friends who have gone through life and death together. Is there a need to avoid this kind of thing? Hurry up and drink. 50 jars, 100 jars, 200 jars. The number of empty jars around him increased. Gradually, Ning Fan, who could not force himself to stay sober, finally felt a little tipsy. In the midst of his drunken stupor, he heard Emperor Slayer's words. Little butterfly, if you really want to find someone in the future but you can't find her anymore, then don't look for her anymore. Promise me, oh? Ning Fan, who did not understand Emperor Slayer's words, gave him a random answer. I hope that you won't be alone in the future. I hope that you will never open your eyes. Open my eyes. What do you mean by open my eyes? Ning Fan was really drunk. I really want to see the morning moon of the ancient desolate mountain with you. But there's no more chance. See, to go now, silly. You can't see it. The year is wrong and the location is wrong. Besides, I'm afraid that you can't see the morning moon of the ancient desolate mountain anymore. Oh, how about I perform a sword dance for you? I've never danced or used a sword in my life. However, the closer I am to disappearing, the more I can understand some things. I seem to be a sword grandmaster in the past. Come, lend me a sword. Lend me a sword. What sword? Lend me a sword. Reverse sea sword. I'll lend it to you. Ning Fan summoned the reverse sea sword and lent it to Emperor Slayer. Then, he leaned on the table and looked at a graceful figure who was walking down from the banquet and dancing with a sword in her hand. It was a very beautiful dance. It was as if all the beautiful words in the world were not enough to describe the beauty in front of him. It was as if he had seen someone holding a sword and dancing for him a long time ago. But it also felt like it was just an illusion. Emperor Slayer. Sword ancestor. Ji Qinglong. I'm the same person. He was her little butterfly. She took him away from the butterfly's hometown and brought him to the human world. He found his origin, his true origin. He felt that he had gained a deeper understanding of reincarnation. However, he was too drunk. There were many things that his mind was in a mess. He could not comprehend them and could only give up. Emperor Slayer stopped dancing without him noticing. Unknowingly, a scorching hot and soft body had crashed into his embrace. Ning Fan saw Emperor Slayer's blurred but sober eyes. At this moment, Emperor Slayer, who was in his arms, had no desire or love in his eyes. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to be so calm. However, he was guiding Ning Fan to do the most erotic things in the world. Let Big Sister have a taste of you before the final moment comes. It was Emperor Slayer's voice, which was filled with indescribable disappointment. A night passed. The morning light passed through some of the restrictions in the dragon nest and entered a guest room from the outside world. It was gentle and clean. In the guest room, Ning Fan woke up from his hangover with a groggy head. He was the first to wake up. He was completely naked. Beside him, there were 5 women sleeping. All of them were sleeping soundly. Their bodies were filled with all kinds of erotic marks. Ning Fan rubbed his head. In his mind, the crazy scenes of him being seduced by Emperor Slayer after getting drunk replayed one after another. He had a good impression of Emperor Slayer. When Emperor Slayer tried to seduce him, he naturally did not reject him. Instead, he took the opportunity to press Emperor Slayer on the table. However, the problem was, in the beginning, he was just having sex with Emperor Slayer. However, halfway through, other women actually joined them in a daze. It was unknown when the 2 of them who were panting on the table joined Ouyang Nuan, making it a 1-on-2 situation. It was fine if it was Ouyang Nuan. Ning Fan had done it with her before. So, it did not matter to him. He was the successor of ancient chaos. It was not difficult for him to fight against 2 people at the same time. However, Zhang Yu also joined them in a daze. All right. Zhang Yu was his cauldron. He would have to pluck her sooner or later. It did not matter to him if he plucked the fruit earlier. However, why did Duo Lan also get affected by the alcohol and make the wrong decision to take off her clothes and join in? There was also the Black Devil. This little fellow had just reached adulthood, but she actually also joined in. However, this little thing's waist is really strong. She's really wild. I can't even hold her down. Looking at the 4 streaks of red on the bed, Ning Fan held his forehead forcefully. When he turned his head, he saw Emperor Slayer's harmless smile. Her black hair spread out like a waterfall. Is this your motive for chasing away the men and leaving only the women to drink with me? Don't you think this scene is too messy? Ning Fan was speechless. I've said it before. I've been holding myself back for 80 million years. Don't underestimate the thirst of an old virgin. Besides, I like liveliness. It's fun to have more people. I'm very curious about how the others will feel when they wake up. Are you very happy? I'm indeed very happy to whore you. It feels good. Whore. If that's the case, you will regret it. Ning Fan's eyes flashed with a faint light. Emperor Slayer's delicate collarbone and her body that seemed to be hidden under the blanket made him want to punish her again. At this moment, Emperor Slayer was not an illusory puppet in his eyes. She was not a lofty half-step quasi-saint. She was just a sword ancestor, an ordinary woman named Ji Qingling. Hiss. What are you trying to do? Why did you come in again? You clearly did it many times last night. How can you still? Emperor Slayer was pressed down on the bed. She let out a cry, but her words were blocked by Ning Fan's lips and tongue. Then, she panted intermittently and could no longer speak. The beast in Ning Fan's heart was released by her. Then, she should be responsible for it. Ji Qingling. As a result, the sounds of sex lasted from early morning until noon. When the other women woke up one by one, they were soon involved in the battle again. In the end, as the only victor, Ning Fan put on his clothes and walked out of the guest room with a flushed face, leaving the 5 women who were defeated on the bed and fell asleep due to exhaustion. Since it had already happened, Ning Fan certainly would not pretend to regret it. After all, everyone was willing to do it. Besides, he had not done it for a long time. To be honest, it felt really good. In the end, he even used the dual cultivation method, allowing all the participants to gain a lot of benefits from this indulgence. As for the injured women, except for Ouyang Nuan, their injuries were greatly alleviated because of the dual cultivation method. After all, it was their first time doing it. Naturally, the effect of the dual cultivation method was very effective. When Duo Lan entered the room, Ning Fan took the opportunity to plant a sub-relic in his body. His cultivation base improved tremendously. However, due to his lack of comprehension, Ning Fan temporarily suppressed his breakthrough. Of course, Ning Fan was the one who gained the most benefits. Emperor Slayer was just an illusory puppet. It did not increase Ning Fan's cultivation base. However, Zhang Yu was a genuine immortal emperor. It was Ning Fan's first time dual cultivating with an immortal emperor. Naturally, he gained a lot of benefits. Unfortunately, his divine demon cultivation had reached its limit. His tribulation blood cultivation base could not improve because of the lack of cultivation methods. As a result, the benefits of dual cultivation could not be used on his cultivation base. Instead, they went into Ning Fan's physical body, primordial spirit and sea of consciousness, causing the strength of his divine spirit-crippled body to improve significantly. Because of the indulgence, more than half of the saintess's yin qi in Duolan's body was absorbed into Ning Fan's body. As for the remaining half, it was still in Duolan's body. It actually showed signs of giving birth to an embryo. However, it was just a sign. According to common sense, the yin qi in the saintess's body would forcibly form an embryo if she had intercourse with a man since she was soaked in the mother pool since young. Perhaps it was because Ning Fan had killed too many people or because Ning Fan's cultivation was not allowed by heaven and earth. In short, it was extremely difficult for him to have children. The embryo in Duolan's body clearly showed signs of forming, but it stopped. Instead, it dispersed into yin qi and went into every inch of Duolan's physical body. Ning Fan already knew that it was difficult for him to have children. However, he still did not expect it to be this difficult. Even the mother pool's yin qi could not give birth to his children. As a result, the yin qi in Duolan's body was completely used up. It coincided with the rumor that Ning Fan had spread across the grassland. Duolan had really been sullied by Ning Fan. While this matter brought Ning Fan benefits, it would also increase Duolan's cultivation base rapidly in the near future. After all, the yin qi had already gone into every inch of Duolan's body. Of course, It would take Duolan many years of arduous cultivation before she could fully absorb the enormous amount of yin qi in her body. Originally, the yin qi in Duolan's body was enough for her to cultivate all the way to the immortal emperor realm. After Ning Fan absorbed more than half of it, it was only enough for her to cultivate to the immortal king realm. Moreover, this kind of yin qi plundering did not mean that one could obtain a unit of yin qi just by taking it away. Plundering yin qi was not a good thing. There was a huge consumption during the conversion of energy. In fact, what Ning Fan obtained was only 1/10 of what Duolan lost. It was just like how it was impossible for a person to grow back 100 kilograms of meat after eating 100 kilograms of meat. It was also impossible for one to directly attain the immortal emperor realm after plucking an immortal emperor woman. Ning Fan felt a little guilty. He had taken away Duolan's opportunity to cultivate to the immortal emperor realm when he was drunk. In the future, he should compensate her more. When he reaches the peak of the second step, it should not be too difficult for him to help Duolan and the other women become immortal emperors. As for the yin qi that Ning Fan absorbed, he stored it in his body for the time being without refining it. After all, his cultivation base could not continue to improve for the time being. If a divine, demon, or devil cultivator breaks through the bottleneck in one of their cultivation bases, this amount of yin qi would be enough to raise the cultivation base of a newly advanced immortal venerable realm directly to the level of one eternal tribulation. Only when it was almost night did the exhausted women wake up one after another. They changed their clothes and walked out of the guest room. Except for Tu Huang, the rest of them more or less had uneasiness and embarrassment on their faces. There was no other reason. A man and 5 women slept together. This scene was simply too messy. These women were not prostitutes. How could they not feel ashamed? Ning Fan's strength was limited. Even though it was 1 against 5, he could only hold down one of them. As for the other 4 women, they would usually hug each other in pairs. After such indulgence, the women were more or less embarrassed. From the banquet to the guest room, their path was littered with the torn clothes of men and women. Unknown liquids. It was enough to show how crazy it was last night. It made the women feel even more ashamed. Even Ouyang Nuan, who was already used to having sex with Ning Fan, felt slightly embarrassed. She definitely would not agree to join forces with the other women to have sex with Ning Fan again. Because she was thin-skinned. Because of her sense of shame. However, when she was drugged by alcohol and was half-conscious, she actually did not reject that kind of sex. After all, Ning Fan was the only man who could do it. No. I can't just drink alcohol in the future. Even if I do, I can't drink such strong liquor. My husband, I'm going to go into seclusion in the profound yin world first. My injuries are still not good. In the future, remember to drink less. It's bad for your body. Ouyang Nuan's ears were burning. She asked Ning Fan to open up the profound yin world and hurriedly left the scene. Little Li, cough. Little man, I'm also going back to train my physical body. Remember, even though I did that with you, I'm not your cauldron. I'm a dignified ancient great emperor. Zhang Yu, who had quietly changed his name, also ran away. However, his walking posture was a little awkward. After all, his lower body hurt. Yesterday, he was heavily injured by Ning Fan's flames. Master, can I go back and nurture the baby? I have a feeling that after mating with you this time, I will definitely give birth to a little 9th fox. I must make good use of the liquid that you injected into me. Wasting is the original sin. The black devil, who was dreaming of giving birth to the next 9th fox, happily returned to the profound yin world. However, Ning Fan knew that it was difficult for him to have children. The chances of this little girl giving birth to a little 9th fox was close to 0. In the end, she would most likely be disappointed. Senior, I'm sorry. What happened to us? Duo Lan was actually apologizing. Ning Fan's face reddened. It seemed like the one who should apologize was him. He had taken advantage of Duo Lan. Now, her neck was still full of red marks from his bites. Alcohol is really harmful. I'm not worthy of being your senior. From today onwards, don't call me senior. But I want to call you senior. Then, do as you wish. The yin qi in your body has already dissolved. I even planted a seed relic in your body. Your cultivation base has improved a lot. Go into seclusion early to absorb these benefits. But I want to take a bath first. It's so sticky down there. There's also something flowing. Duo Lan explained embarrassedly. There was no way this conversation could continue. No matter how they talked, they could not get back to this topic. Then, you should go and take a bath first. After taking a bath, I want to rest for 2 days. I can't sleep with you tonight. It's too painful. All right. Have a good rest. It was unknown whether Duo Lan really wanted to take a bath or she wanted to hide from Ning Fan for 2 days because she was embarrassed. Anyway, she ran back to the guest room to boil water and took a bath. After that, she disappeared. In the end, only Tu Huang, who had been smiling without saying anything, was left beside Ning Fan. Don't you need to find an excuse to sneak away? You are the one who was punished the most by me. Besides, you and I have been so intimate in just one night. Now that we are looking at each other, don't you feel awkward? Ning Fan looked at Tu Huang, who was so relaxed, and said speechlessly, There's no need for that. I have a thick face. Besides, I don't feel any pain. It's indeed a little sticky. But before I came out, I had already cleaned it. There's nothing flowing out. My lower body is still a little swollen. However, with my Immortal Emperor Realm recovery ability, it's only a matter of time before I recover. It won't affect me when I fight again. It's just that my waist is a little sore and my legs are a little numb. Who asked you to keep raising my legs so high? Besides, every time you did it too deep. All right. You don't have to explain in such detail. Do you want to fight again? Fight again? Can your body take it? A battle of that level is really not worth mentioning to me. Besides, even if I can't take it, I still want to whore to my heart's content. It's rare to meet a male cauldron with a strong physique. No matter what, I have to whore to my heart's content. Whore to my heart's content. You actually dare to say that? Ning Fan's eyes turned dark. Whores you... wait. You're really going. I don't want it anymore. Put me down. Ning Fan. How dare you? Hiss. It hurts. It's too late. Since you want a whore, I'll let you whore to your heart's content. A few days later, Long Sanchue, who had regrown his left arm, came out of seclusion to look for Ning Fan. As soon as he saw Ning Fan, he noticed that Ning Fan's face looked refreshed. When he glanced at Sovereign Tu and Duo Lan, who were behind Ning Fan, he discovered that the primordial yin in their bodies were no longer there. He immediately understood why the red glow on Ning Fan's face came from. He patted Ning Fan's shoulder in admiration. What impressed him the most was that Ning Fan could even push down Sovereign Tu, who was at the half-step quasi-saint realm. He's truly a role model for my generation. Brother Ning, you really have a lot of luck with women. However, you're not bad yourself. Ever since you gave me an innate sacrificial treasure, I secretly spread the news. There are already a few female Hui dragons who are willing to become my Dao companions in exchange for the sacrificial treasure. Unfortunately, those female dragons don't have high cultivation bases. However, they are very handsome. Their skin is dark, their bodies are round, and their butts are big. They can definitely give birth to a bunch of little Hui dragons with excellent bloodlines. Dark skin, round body, and big butts. Are they really good looking? Ning Fan was a little doubtful about Long Sanchue's aesthetics. After all, he was a Hui dragon and not a human. It was understandable for him to have a strange aesthetic. When Long Sanchue stopped laughing, he sighed. Unfortunately, weddings in my Hui dragon clan are extremely complicated. I still need to prepare for dozens of years before I can hold a wedding banquet. By that time, I'm afraid Brother Ning will have already left the sacred region and won't be able to attend my wedding. I still have something to do in the Eastern Heaven. I have to go back early. I'm afraid I won't be able to make it in time for Brother Long's wedding. This is the last time the Extreme Pill Sacred Region will be opened. After Brother Ning leaves, I'm afraid it will be very difficult for us to meet again in the future. Long Sanchue sighed even more heavily. He had no friends in his life, and Ning Fan was the first one he had a good temper with. When he thought that they would not be able to meet again in the future, he could not help but feel a little sad. Brother Long, you don't have to sigh. On the surface, This extreme pill sacred region only has one realm beast passage. It can lead to the outside world. However, there might be other hidden passages in the dark. I don't believe that old monster Debay doesn't have a backup plan for this matter. If I still want to come to the extreme pill sacred region one day, I will find a way. Ning Fan comforted him. In the end, Long Sanchue completely gave Ning Fan this dragon nest which was located at the Stone Flame realm. He then left and went to a dragon nest in the Wood Flame realm to settle down. The few female dragons that he found as his fiancées were all in the Wood Flame realm. Naturally, they would need to live there. Instead of leaving this dragon nest to waste, it was not a bad idea to give it to Ning Fan. After Long Sanchue left, only Ning Fan, Duo Lan and Tu Huang were left in the empty dragon nest. After Ning Fan left, only Tu Huang and Duo Lan were left to live in this place. At this moment, Ning Fan deeply felt that his strength was not enough. If he had the strength to flatten the wills of the saints in this world, the two women could leave the extreme pill sacred region with him. After leaving, they would not be cursed by the saints' wills and die bit by bit. Cultivation base was not everything. However, it was indeed impossible to not have cultivation base. He also could not stop and stay here with the two women. He had too many things to do. He must complete them and he could not slack off. A few more days passed. Ning Fan set up many formations to isolate karma in the dragon nest, increasing its level of concealment. He also left many items for Tu Huang and Duo Lan. As a result, the day of his departure finally arrived. The inside of the cave was warm in winter and cool in summer. However, the outside of the cave was covered with dark clouds and the autumn wind was bleak. In the bleak autumn wind, Ning Fan originally made up his mind to leave directly without looking back. However, when he reached the entrance of the cave, he stopped and turned around to tell the two women, "When my cultivation base is high enough, I will bring you two out of the extreme pill sacred region. Before that, you two will stay in this dragon nest and wait for me. If it's not necessary, don't go out to avoid being detected by the quasi-sage Debay. However, as long as you stay in this dragon nest, those quasi-sages won't be able to find you. Senior, don't worry. Duo Lan is planning to find a safe place to enter seclusion and refine the enormous amount of yin qi that has dispersed into my body. I don't plan to leave this dragon nest for tens of thousands of years. This place is very good. Duo Lan will wait here for your return. The next time you come to me, I will certainly be an ancient cultivator." Duo Lan said to Ning Fan with a dejected expression. She was reluctant to part with Ning Fan, but she did not ask him to stay in the end. Will there really be a day when we meet again? She was doubtful. What she doubted was not Ning Fan but the possibility of the extreme pill sacred region entering again. Alright, Ning Fan. You should leave quickly. When your cultivation base is high enough, come back and take Duo Lan away as soon as possible. Don't let her wait here for too long. Tu Huang's heart was filled with an indescribable sense of loss, but his expression was as usual. There was not a single trace of sadness in his expression. It was as if he was cold and emotionless. Only Duo Lan? Don't I need to come back and fetch you? No need. Do you want to stay here forever? That's fine too. When my cultivation base is high enough to the point where even those quasi-sages of Debay won't dare to scheme against you, it's fine even if you want to stay here. At that time, they won't dare to do anything to you. I believe that you will be strong enough to reach that level. However, if possible, I hope that you won't force yourself too much just to cultivate. Besides, after reaching the peak of the second step, don't ever try to cultivate to the third step again. But Ning Fan was surprised. You are a Ji cultivator. To you, the third step is a painful choice. I don't want you to suffer. Besides, the qualification of your race shouldn't be enough for you to become a saint. In this world, the vast expanse butterfly is a race that has difficulties in becoming a saint. As for you, you are a vast expanse butterfly with an ordinary bloodline who has cultivated the Ji Dao. If the difficulty of becoming a saint for an ordinary person is 1, the vast expanse butterfly's difficulty is 10. As for you, it's 100, 1,000, or even 10,000. It's actually so much more difficult for me to become a saint compared to ordinary people. Ning Fan was surprised. After a moment of silence, he shook his head and said, "To me, becoming a saint is still too far away. I don't plan to think about it for the time being. However, if I really reach that step, I think I will give it a try no matter what. I want to know what the third step is like. I'm sorry. I probably won't accept your suggestion. You can decide for yourself. If becoming a saint can make you happy, I will do my best to help you. However, my strength is limited. I'm afraid that it won't work even if I help you. After all, even I couldn't reach that step in the past. Since ancient times, there have been countless geniuses who died on the saint path. As for the fourth step, saints are actually just ants. Ordinary people will hunt large animals for food, but they won't eat microorganisms to fill their stomachs. If you can't reach the peak, I'd rather you be an ordinary person. At least you'll be safe. The third step is a battle of foundation. This is exactly what you lack the most." Tu Huang smiled bitterly. "What are you talking about? I don't really understand." Ning Fan shook his head. He knew that Tu Huang was talking nonsense again. This was the doing of the sword ancestor's true emotion in Tu Huang's body. During this period of time, Ning Fan had been studying it repeatedly. However, he still could not find a way to remove the sword ancestor's true emotion for Tu Huang. Only by using the same method as the Radiant Buddha and the others, which was to destroy Tu Huang's cultivation base, would there be a possibility for him to remove the sword ancestor's true emotion. Tu Huang firmly objected to having his cultivation base destroyed. After considering that the safety of the dragon nest was not a problem, Ning Fan did not insist on removing the sword ancestor's true emotion. As long as Tu Huang does not leave the dragon nest and keep the sword ancestor's true emotion, no one would be able to find it and scheme against him. Do you have anything else to say? Nothing. Hurry up and leave. Well then, I'm leaving now. You two take care of yourselves. Ning Fan turned around and walked out of the cave in large strides. Without turning his head, he waved his hand at the two ladies. Very soon, he was nowhere to be seen. Duo Lan felt even sadder. She kept sighing. Tu Huang did not sigh. However, his eyes dimmed slightly, as if they would never see each other again after this parting. A long time after Ning Fan left, she finally stopped suppressing the death qi in her body. The redness on her face that was created by the illusion technique disappeared. It was replaced by paleness and weakness. Sister Qingling, what happened to you? Why is there so much death qi coming out from your body? What exactly happened to you? Are you feeling unwell somewhere? Have your injuries worsened? Duo Lan panicked. Don't worry. It's just a normal process of birth, aging, illness, and death. Originally, I should have dissipated a few days ago. However, I was afraid that the little butterfly would find out about it. Hence, I forced myself to stay alive for a few more days. This is already my limit. I can't hold on any longer. After I die, you will need to live alone in this dragon nest. Tu Huang's face was pale, but his smile was serene and contented. She was just an illusory puppet. She was not real. She was just an illusion. Moreover, she was an existence that was even more fake than the people of the Yin world in the illusory world. Her life and death were all under the control of 10B's supremacy. What kind of Tao did she cultivate in this life? It was just the experience and cultivation base that 10B's supremacy had arranged for her. Her emotions were all fake. However, after meeting Ning Fan, she finally felt the truth behind the facade for the first time. The closer she was to death, the more complicated memories would appear in her mind. Those memories originated from the true feelings of the sword ancestor in her body. They originated from the true world and the days and nights when she was still the sword ancestor. In those memories, she would never smile. She would always have a cold expression on her face, and her sword would always accompany her. Until one day, there was finally a little butterfly who was more important than her life by her side. I'd rather die than let 10B's supremacy scheme against my little butterfly. This time, 10B's supremacy is going to miscalculate. That was Tu Huang's resolute and firm voice. Through the trace of illusory connection in her body, His voice was transmitted from this place to the 1,000 layers of void space that was countless kilometers away. In the depths of the turbulent flow of space, 5 quasi-saints were fighting each other. They were fighting for the 3 treasures which were the formation diagram of the ancient country, the extreme yang water, and the wooden box that could open the qi refining array. It was extremely difficult to determine the winner in a battle between quasi-saints. Moreover, there were 5 quasi-saints here. After 10 days of fighting, they still could not decide who would get the 3 treasures. Among them, the Radiant Buddha and the Death Emperor had already joined hands. They had no choice but to fight each other because they were the only ones who obtained their quasi-saint cultivation base through reincarnation. The biggest disadvantage of a reincarnated spiritual body was that it could not last for long. Every time they used their cultivation base, they could only maintain it for a very short period of time. Most of the time, they had to use their original cultivation base of half-step quasi-saints to fight against other quasi-saints. They could not gain the upper hand at all. Only by joining hands could they have a slight chance of winning. Among the 3 treasures, the formation diagram of the ancient country was snatched by Supreme Ox Ghost. As they were fighting each other all along, they did not have time to distinguish the real one. Taoist Baizu also did not have time to check the heaven-opening wooden box. As for the extreme yang water, it was snatched by Supreme 10 Bees. Even though these 3 quasi-saints each had their own gains, they still wanted to snatch other people's treasures. Thus, they did not leave the turbulent flow of space in a hurry. Instead, they continued to fight each other. On the surface, Supreme 10 Bees was still fighting for the 2 formations of the ancient country and the wooden box after obtaining the extreme yang water. However, deep inside his heart, he was extremely disdainful of these 2 treasures. It was because she was different from the other quasi-saints. Only she knew that the 2 formations of the ancient country and the wooden box that Ning Fan threw out were fake. As for the extreme yang water, it was actually the real thing. That was why she managed to snatch it. Interesting. This is really interesting. These few old things have no idea that 2 of the 3 treasures are fake. The biggest benefit is actually in my hands. This extreme yang water seems to have been obtained from the well of vexation at the bottom of the Yellow Spring Sea. What an incredible vast butterfly. Even I can't reach the bottom of the Yellow Spring Sea, but this young man can actually come and go as he pleases. Moreover, he actually obtained this item from the bottom of the sea. Unfortunately, this young man is still in my trap after all. When he discovers that Ji Qingling is about to die, he will certainly come and beg me. At that time, I will try to obtain his butterfly seed. The butterfly seed of the vast butterfly is extremely valuable. It is a supreme treasure to my spirit-devouring bee clan. Calculating the time, the sword ancestor's puppet should be about to die soon. I've fought with these old farts for a long time. It's about time for me to find a passage and leave. It won't be easy for those old farts to leave this chaotic space. However, for someone like me who has been preparing for this since 80 million years ago, it won't be difficult for me to leave this chaotic space. Supreme 10 Bees wore a pure and holy smile like a lotus flower on her face. Her movements were graceful as she fought against the other quasi-saints. However, all of a sudden she could no longer smile. Her unchanging pure and holy smile actually revealed a trace of ferocity for the first time. Damn it! The sword ancestor's puppet actually used all its means to prevent the vast butterfly from knowing that she is about to die. I miscalculated. Damn you, sword ancestor's puppet. Ji Qingling, you bastard. Do you think that you can stop me from scheming against your butterfly Dao companion with just this little trick of yours? Don't even think about it. Supreme 10 Bees waved her hand. Divine light burst out and her chi was instantly released from the suppression, rising all the way to the level of an ancient great cultivator. This was her true cultivation base. If she hadn't miscalculated, she definitely wouldn't have rashly released the seal on her cultivation base. Once the aura of an ancient great cultivator spread out, it directly shook the other quasi-saints to the point where they coughed up blood and retreated. Then, she took a step forward, and circles of golden ripples appeared under her feet. Her figure then faded into the ripples, directly tearing apart heaven and earth, disappearing from this chaotic space without a trace. The other 4 quasi-saints wiped away the blood and sucked in a breath of cold air, greatly shocked. Clearly, they hadn't expected Supreme 10B's true cultivation base to be that of an ancient great cultivator. Moreover, she could directly leave the chaotic space in the 1,000-layer void. None of them could do this. Damn it. That damned bee actually hid herself so deeply. If she had this kind of cultivation base and ability, how could she have been suppressed by the Southern Medicine old man in the past? Could it be that the suppression in the past was just to numb us? Has she been hiding since then? What exactly is she scheming? An ancient great cultivator? Impossible. That damned bee isn't an ordinary quasi-saint. She is actually an ancient great cultivator. I don't believe it. The spirit-devouring bee clan of the true world was stripped of their qualification to produce an ancient great cultivator because they had committed a serious crime. In the current era, it's impossible for this clan to produce an ancient great cultivator. How could that damned bee have reached this level? Could it be that this damned bee had already cultivated to the level of an ancient great cultivator before the spirit-devouring bee clan was punished? Cries of surprise rang out simultaneously. However, Supreme 10B's was destined to not care about these cries of surprise. She traveled through the void and returned to the outside world. As soon as she returned, she used Karma Search to search for Ning Fan and Tu Huang's whereabouts. However, she naturally couldn't find them. Her expression immediately turned cold. I can't find Ji Qingling's whereabouts. I also can't find the whereabouts of that vast expanse butterfly. However, as a spirit-devouring bee, I can feel that the vast expanse butterfly hasn't left this world yet. My stomach is still secreting gastric juice. This is the proof. Even though I can't find you, I can make my voice spread throughout this world and enter your ears. Ji Qingling, oh Ji Qingling, you want to hide it from your little butterfly and not let her know that you're on the verge of death. However, I will let her know that you're hiding it from her. I will make her fall into my trap and turn her into my food. Ning Fan left San Yen and the inner area of the extreme Dan's sacred region, heading towards the outer area. With Long Sanchue's dragon nest, he was not worried about the safety of Tu Huang and Duo Lan. His only regret was that he couldn't bring the 2 women along with him. There was also a trace of unexplainable worry lingering in his heart, unable to get rid of it. The closer he was to leaving the extreme Dan's sacred region, the more he felt that there was something unfinished and unfinished. That feeling did not seem to be an illusion, but he could not explain it clearly. Is there anything else that I haven't finished in this extreme Dan's sacred region? My purpose of coming to the extreme Dan's sacred region has been fully accomplished. It seems like I haven't forgotten anything. Ning Fan suppressed the distracting thoughts in his mind and flew all the way to the spatial node of the extreme Dan's sacred region. As long as he leaves through this spatial node, he could return to the eastern heaven. As long as he takes a step out of this spatial node, he would truly bid farewell to the extreme Dan's sacred region. However, just as he took half a step, a woman's voice reverberated throughout the entire extreme Dan's sacred region. This was Supremacy 10 Wasp's indiscriminate voice transmission. As long as Ning Fan was still in this world, he would definitely be able to hear it. Vast expanse butterfly. Ji Qingling is about to die, but you actually don't know about this. If you want to save her life, come and find me. Use your lowly life to exchange for her life. Her tone was filled with indescribable disdain. Even though she had been plotting against Ning Fan for many years, she seemed to look down on Ning Fan's vast expanse butterfly bloodline. Clank Ning Fan's eyes widened. In an instant, he understood the source of the empty feeling in his heart. In an instant, he figured out what Tu Huang was hiding. It turned out that she was about to die. However, she did not tell him. However, she suppressed her death chi, squeezed out a smile and made love with him. In the past, his feelings for Tu Huang had nothing to do with romance. Today, however, this feeling was no longer pure. It was tainted with romance and romance. However, it was not just romance. There was something more important than romance. He only needed one step to leave the extreme Dan's sacred region. However, Ning Fan forcibly stopped. He was not leaving. He wanted to find Tu Huang and ask him clearly. All the living beings in the extreme Dan's sacred region heard Supreme Tenbi's voice transmission. Even Tu Huang, who was in the dragon nest, also heard Tenbi's voice. His expression changed drastically. After that, he was enraged. He was enraged because Tenbi still did not give up. Even at this moment, he still wanted to take Little Butterfly's life. This anger was the same as when the Sword Ancestor's skeleton talked about Tenbi's. If there was a reverse scale in the Sword Ancestor's life that he would never allow others to touch, that reverse scale would be Little Butterfly. Her originally weak and dying body seemed to be burning forcefully at this moment, forcefully producing strength. Tu Huang regained her strength. She gently pushed away Duo Lan, who was supporting her, and stood still. She inspected her body with surprise. However, when she realized that it was the Sword Ancestor's true love that was burning in her body that provided her with energy, she understood. This was not the power that she used on her own accord. This was the power of true love that she sacrificed herself for Little Butterfly's safety. She no longer hid in the dragon nest. Instead, she gave Duo Lan a reminder and quickly flew out. Duo Lan, stay here and don't go out. Wait for the day when Little Butterfly comes to pick you up. As for me, I need to do something. I need to use this illusory body to eliminate some great enemies for Little Butterfly. In the future, I hope that all of you can replace me and accompany him by his side. All of you are my smiles. Every smile is unique. All of you are the memories of being together with Little Butterfly. Only all of you can make him happy. Duo Lan was shocked and wanted to stop her. She was completely unaware of the situation and did not understand the meaning behind Tu Huang's words. However, Tu Huang had already flown out. She would not turn back. Duo Lan alone could not stop her. The Slaughter Empress's illusory body was burning, and her emotions were pounding. Her cultivation base was far below that of Paragon 10 wasps, and yet she was filled with the desire to wipe out 10 wasps who had plotted against her Little Butterfly. No one is allowed to hurt her Little Butterfly. Even if you are the ancient 10th spirit of the Zido immortal region appointed by immortal sovereign Zido, if she could not let Little Butterfly leave in peace, she must at least let him leave safely. If the gods and devils hurt her Little Butterfly, she will kill them all. If the immortal sovereign hurt her Little Butterfly, she will point her sword at the immortal sovereign. Ancient 10th spirit, you schemed against my Little Butterfly. I will never forgive you. Never. 10 bees who were flying around the entire extreme Dan's sacred region in search of Ning Fan suddenly felt a chill down their spines. The moment Sword Ancestor's voice entered her ears, 10 bees who had already activated his ancient great cultivation base coughed out blood without any warning. He was actually injured by Sword Ancestor's words. What is Sword Ancestor? Every word, every sentence, and every look in his eyes could be turned into sword techniques to kill his enemies. This was not the sword technique of words, nor was it the law of words. It was also not the application of Tao intent, Tao power, Tao law, or Tao source. Above the Tao source, there was a power that only third-step saints could possess. That kind of power was different from the Tao source. It was unique, and it was impossible for 2 third-step saints to possess it at the same time. That kind of power was beyond the Tao source. It was called Tao orthodoxy. Sword Ancestor's words contained the power of Tao orthodoxy. It could be turned into a sword of Tao orthodoxy. Its power was unfathomable. Some of the weaker ancient great cultivators did not even have the qualifications to withstand a single sentence from Sword Ancestor. This was the power of the number 1 immortal emperor in the desolate ancient immortal region. This was the reason why a 2nd-step saint could sever the corner of a 4th-step cultivator's robe and shock the 3 realms. Impossible! Your Sword Ancestor's emotions were sealed by me with the ancient seal of the Worship Spirit sect. How could it be unsealed? How could you have the power comparable to when you were at your peak? Supreme Being Tenbi was scared out of his wits. His entire body was trembling. Under his fearful gaze, a graceful woman in a green robe tore open the sky and walked out. Oh no! She was not unsealed. She was burning the remaining reincarnation. She was paying the price of completely wiping out Sword Ancestor's emotions in exchange for a short period of peak power. You're crazy. Do you have to give up your last hope of reincarnation for a little butterfly with an ordinary bloodline? You should know that even today, the desolate ancient immortal emperor still has a trace of mercy for you. Otherwise, the person who was sent to kill you back then would not have been a piece of trash like Medicine Saint Nan. It would most likely be Saint Nirvana or even Saint Desolate. As long as you keep a trace of your emotions intact, as long as you bow down to the desolate ancient immortal emperor and admit your mistake, he will be willing to take you back to the desolate ancient immortal region. After all, you are a second-step saint with Tao orthodoxy. You have the potential to become a saint without merit. If you wipe out your last trace of emotions, you will never have the hope of reincarnation. Reincarnation? Without the little butterfly, what reincarnation do I want? What immortality? If fate dictates that I can't live and die with him, my only wish is to die in his place. Let him live on in my place. Lunatic. Just for an ordinary boundless butterfly. You actually did this. It's because of your unreasonable behavior that the desolate ancient immortal emperor entrusted me to kill that weak butterfly in the 9 heavens 10 earths. If not, why would I, the dignified 10th spirit of the ancient era, care so much about a trash butterfly? Noisy! Tu Huang's beautiful eyes shot out 2 beams of divine light that turned into sharp swords and directly cut 10B Supreme's body into 2. The aftermath even penetrated through heaven and earth, penetrating through millions of layers of void, causing the entire Extreme Dan's sacred region to become unstable and shake violently. At this moment, all the flying swords in the entire Extreme Dan's sacred region no longer listened to their master's restrictions. They turned into streams of light and gathered towards Tu Huang as if they were on a pilgrimage. Almost in the blink of an eye, the sound of swords spread throughout the entire Extreme Dan's sacred region, causing there to be no second sound in the entire world except for the sound of swords. Damn it! Is this woman trying to destroy the Extreme Dan's sacred region? Stop her! We can't let her destroy the entire Extreme Dan's sacred region. The remaining 4 ancestral Thunder Sparrow Heavenly Tao souls felt fear. The aura that Tu Huang emitted was clearly only at the second step, but the sense of threat it gave them was even more terrifying than that of Medicine Saint Nan who had built the Extreme Dan's sacred region back then. Unfortunately, before the 4 ancestral Thunder Sparrows could do anything to Tu Huang, they were swept by Tu Huang's sleeve. The entire sky was instantly split apart by the sword light. The 4 ancestral Thunder Sparrows hiding inside the Heavenly Tao were all heavily injured by the sword chi. How would they dare to attack Tu Huang? They didn't even dare to breathe. They could see that it was Tu Huang who showed mercy that allowed them to live. Otherwise, they would have died directly. This woman had the terrifying strength to destroy the Heavenly Tao of this world with a raise of her hand. She was 10,000 times more terrifying than the Southern Medicine Saint who built the Extreme Dan's sacred region. Since all of you helped the little butterfly on the sacred mountain, I won't kill you. Scram. Tu Huang said coldly. Yes. My lord, please calm down. We will scram now. The 4 ancestral Thunder Sparrows immediately ran away. They no longer had the authority and dignity of the Heavenly Tao. Ji Qingling, how dare you destroy my physical body? You deserve to die. Do you think you can kill me by burning your reincarnation? You are wrong. My original name is 10Bs. I was bestowed with the surname Ji by the desolate ancient immortal sovereign and changed the name of 10Bs to 10 spirits. I will let you see how wonderful this name is. A golden bee primordial spirit flew out from 10B's corpse and roared in shock and anger. Then, a golden bee stinger shot out from its tail. The bee stinger grew with the wind and turned into a golden divine spear. Boundless Tao laws interweaved and emitted a grand heavenly sound. It suddenly approached Tu Huang. An ancient divine spear made from half a drop of the great desolate blood. I have already lost the great desolate blood weapon. Then I will use my blood to corrupt your great desolate blood weapon. Bang! Tu Huang revealed a final smile. his body was penetrated by the golden divine spear. He didn't dodge or resist. Then, his physical body exploded into a mist of blood with a bang. However, for some reason, the blood mist suddenly condensed and transformed into one ancient and inexplicable brand after another that was engraved on the golden divine spear. Then, the golden divine spear actually decayed bit by bit. Bit by bit, it was corroded into ashes. Impossible! You actually destroyed the great desolate blood weapon with your illusory body. I don't believe it. After the blood weapon was destroyed, the golden bee primordial spirit coughed out golden blood. Its body also shrunk greatly, as if it was extremely weak. Then, the blood mist that filled the sky turned into a bloody wind and engulfed it. It wanted to escape, but it couldn't. Every drop of blood in the blood mist carried the sword ancestor's Tao of sword. At this moment, the golden bee regretted accepting the desolate ancient immortal sovereign's mission to kill Ningfan and bring back the sword ancestor who had admitted her mistake. The sword ancestor would never admit her mistake. This was a lunatic, a crazy woman who couldn't be reasoned with. Ji Qingling, you are very good. Very good. I, Ji Shiling, will remember the grudge of killing my second primordial spirit today. Even though I can't come to immortal sovereign Zido's illusory world with my true body, I can stay in the origin world and wait for your little butterfly's arrival. It's fine if he doesn't go to the origin world. But if he does, I will definitely tear him into pieces. You who have burned away your samsara won't be able to protect him anymore. Haha. While the golden bee was laughing maliciously, it was cut into nothingness by the sword of the Tao of blood mist. Then, the blood mist dissipated into the wind bit by bit with the slaughter sovereign's final sigh. As if it never existed, after a long time, Ningfan ran all the way back to the dragon nest. However, he could only find Duolan. He couldn't find the slaughter sovereign anymore. He activated his rain sense to the maximum. The sky that was always filled with dark clouds finally started to rain. It was as if the sky was crying. Find her. I must find her. Ningfan's expression was as if he had gone insane. This expression had not appeared on his face for many years. He forgot about the injuries in his body, all the sceneries in heaven and earth. He even forgot to breathe. He activated his rain technique to the maximum in his life. It almost covered the entire extreme Dan sacred region. However, he could not find the slaughter sovereign at all. Even the supreme 10 bees who he could faintly sense earlier could not be found for some reason. After a long time, Ningfan's rain sense suddenly captured a violent explosion in the sky somewhere in the extreme Dan sacred region. He rushed to that place without a care in the world. However, when he arrived there, he could not find anything at all. The slaughter sovereign was not here. The supreme 10 bees was not here. There were only 2 traces of death chi that rose into the sky and perished together in this place. Only the terrifying sword chi that could not be dispersed reverberated in heaven and earth. Only countless uncontrollable flying swords were still flying towards this place one after another. Only the words of the slaughter sovereign that were mixed in the sword chi still remained in heaven and earth. When Ningfan arrived, those words entered his ears. I'm sorry, little butterfly. This is the second time you have to see my death. The first time was when the sword ancestor, Bai Gu, died in front of Ningfan. The second time was now. The sword ancestor's emotions were gone. The slaughter sovereign was gone. Because his reverse scale was touched, he actually killed the supreme 10 bees at all costs. From now on, whether it was the sword ancestor's corpse or the sword ancestor's emotions, they would all disappear from this world. The sword orthodoxy had also truly lost its previous master from this moment onwards. From now on, he would never be able to find her again. No matter which reincarnation he went through, he would never be able to find her. I have imagined countless times how I would feel when leaving the extreme Dan sacred region. However, I didn't expect it to be so heavy. I have imagined the countless karmic ties between us. I know that we started in the butterfly's hometown, but I didn't know that our karmic ties would end here. Ningfan stood in silence. His hands were clenched into fists so tightly that they bled. The first time the sword ancestor's corpse disappeared in front of him, It made him feel indescribable melancholy. He chose to use a hangover to forget that feeling. However, the second time, how could he forget this empty feeling? Forget this feeling of heart being twisted by a knife. Forget this kind of madness and self-blame that made him want to destroy the entire world. Why didn't he discover the Slaughter Sovereign's near-death earlier? Why? If he lives, she dies? If she dies, he lives. Where will immortals go after disappearing? By my order, return the sword ancestor to me. Ning Fan's body suddenly erupted with a sky-piercing purple-black demon spirit power. At this moment, he was not the leader of the Calamity Blood clan, the ancient devil or the ancient god. He was the ancient demon. He pointed at the sky. A purple-black spirit will suddenly appeared in the sky. As soon as it appeared, it kept growing bigger. In the end, it was so huge that it could cover the entire sky. When he activated his ability, a boundless suction force was emitted from the spirit wheel, trying to suck the Slaughter Sovereign's scattered soul back from heaven and earth. He did not know if the Slaughter Sovereign was the kind of person who would die without yielding. Even if he wasn't, he would still keep him here. Foolish child. You actually want to use the first round of the 5 spirit wheels to capture Ji Qingling's soul. I have to say that you are very ignorant and incompetent. So that's how it is. You are the vast boundless butterfly that Ji Qingling picked up in the past. It's quite rare for a mortal butterfly to be able to cultivate until today. Unfortunately, the second step is the limit of a mortal butterfly like you. It's impossible even for you to become an emperor. How about this? I owe Ji Qingling a favor. I will give you 10 breaths of time. If you stop now, I will help you deceive the Yellow Spring Holy Sect and exempt you from the serious crime of interfering with the return of Ji Qingling's Tao orthodoxy. A voice sounded from the other side of the endless reincarnation. It carried the might of the third step, causing Ning Fan to spurt out a mouthful of blood and fall from the sky. The Fu Li spirit wheel that he had just released was instantly broken into 2 halves. Facing the might of the third step expert that suddenly appeared, Ning Fan felt small and insignificant. His body even instinctively wanted to surrender. That submission did not come from his own will. It came from the will of the mysterious saint. He wanted to use his will to control Ning Fan's body and stop him from doing that crazy thing. Ning Fan's eyes turned even redder. The words of the mysterious saint might have carried a trace of kindness. However, anyone who tries to stop him from taking back the sword ancestor would be his enemy, no matter who they are. I must bring her back. I must. Ning Fan roared. The stars of the battle of yin and yang emitted dazzling divine light from his glabella. Under the suppression of the saint's will, he regained control of his body. Then he withstood the boundless pressure of the saint and released the Fu Li spirit wheel again, wanting to take back the sword ancestor's remnant soul from heaven and earth. The mysterious saint still wanted to stop him, but Ning Fan summoned his god-slaying giant form and ignited a drop of Fu Li ancestral blood in his body. This time, he was not struck down from the sky by the saint's pressure. This time, the demon spirit power of his Fu Li spirit wheel was more than 10 times stronger than before. However, it was not crushed by the mere pressure of the saint. The fragment of the ancient kingdom's god-slaying shield, and the Fu Li ancestral blood. Is that Ji Qingling such an important person to you? You even exposed the ancient kingdom's god-slaying shield in front of me. Besides, you are even willing to give up the ancestral blood of the Fu Li bloodline. You have really moved me. Unfortunately, I have a duty to fulfill. I can't let you interfere in this matter. I can pretend that I didn't see what happened today. You can leave now. Chi 5 rays of golden light suddenly appeared in the sky and turned into a golden hoop, binding the god-slaying giant's neck and limbs. When the golden hoop tightened, it pierced into his flesh. It could be said that the power of the golden hoop was definitely more terrifying than the heavenly tribulation that Ning Fan triggered on the sacred mountain. As the golden hoop tightened, the god-slaying giant's neck and limbs exploded. His god-slaying giant form was destroyed. Now that his god-slaying giant form was destroyed, the 5 golden hoop appeared on Ning Fan's neck and limbs. Under the binding, Ning Fan felt that his physical body was on the verge of breaking apart. His magic power was sealed. His Fu Li spirit wheel that was half ignited was sealed. His half-opened Fu Li spirit wheel dissipated once again due to losing the support of his magic power. Ning Fan's eyes were filled with hatred. Under the suppression of absolute strength, he could not even put up a slight resistance. At the place where Emperor Tu had fallen, a few specks of light suddenly rose into the air. Then, countless stairs appeared in the sky. These stairs were connected to the sky. Looking at it from afar, it was shrouded in yellow mist and its end could not be seen. However, one could vaguely see the vague outline of a human head standing at the end of the stairs. It gave off an invisible sense of majesty. Those specks of light flew into the stairs. No, it was not accurate to say that they flew into the stairs. Instead of saying that they flew into the stairs, it would be more accurate to say that they were sucked into the gigantic human head at the end of the stairs. Then they were swallowed. At your level, you are merely comparable to the ancient immortal venerables. There are countless of them in the true world. Don't even think that you can interfere with the unification of the Tao from my hands. Not killing you is already my consideration for our past relationship. Don't overstep your boundaries, you lowly ant. It was the mysterious saint's disdainful voice that reverberated throughout heaven and earth. However, no matter how loud that voice was, Ning Fan did not care as he could not hear it at all. He had forgotten all the scenery in front of him and all the sounds beside his ears. He even forgot about the 5 golden hoop that bound his body. He witnessed the scene of the human head swallowing the specks of light. He did not know what that was. He only knew that every time the human head swallowed a speck of light, the distance between him and Sovereign Tu would increase. Give her back to me. Ning Fan's voice was hoarse. His primordial spirit rushed out of his physical body, which was bound by the chains, and charged towards the gigantic human head. Then, be it the specks of light or Ning Fan's primordial spirit, they were all swallowed by the gigantic human head. You actually rushed into the mouth of the Nether Lord for Ji Qingling. With that vast expanse butterfly's cultivation base, it shouldn't have failed to notice the consequences of being swallowed by the Nether Lord. She actually had such courage. Ji Qingling didn't lose everything for this butterfly in the past in vain. Unfortunately, this vast expanse butterfly is too weak. You should know that even the legendary vast expanse 9 butterflies would only end up being digested and destroyed after being swallowed by the Netherlord. Amidst the mysterious saint's sigh, the countless stairs and the mysterious human head disappeared from heaven and earth as if they had never existed. In the true world, in the Yellow Spring Sacred Sect, above a layer of clouds that was filled with strange light, there was an old man wearing a green Taoist robe. He stood with his hands clasped behind his back with the regretful expression. In front of him stood an ancient tree that was 10,000 zhang tall. The qi of this tree was tremendous, as if it had a spirit. There were also countless baby-shaped fruits on the tree. The cultivation base of the old man in the Taoist robe could not be seen clearly. However, one could tell that he was a saint. Moreover, he was not at the Genesis saint realm but an existence of a higher level. His eyes were filled with regret. He was clearly looking at the ancient tree, but it was as if he was looking at something else. Interesting. A mere mortal rank vast expanse butterfly actually dares to enter the mouth of the Netherlord for Ji Qingling. The mouth of the Netherlord is the final destination of all souls in the world. There is no reincarnation there. There is only digestion and destruction. It is impossible for this child to bring out all of Ji Qingling's orthodoxy. However, if he has the cultivation base of a desolate saint and only brings out a little bit of the soul, perhaps there is a 1 in a billion chance that he can achieve this. Never mind. Ji Qingling, oh Ji Qingling. Back then, when I had just become a saint and was besieged by great enemies, you used your sword to save me. If not for your help, I would have become a pile of soil. It is also because of this that I am willing to pay the price and accept this difficult task to send you off to collect your orthodoxy. This is also to express my gratitude. Your greatest wish in life is to protect that fragile butterfly of yours. I will take the risk of violating the sex rules and help you. The complete orthodoxy cannot be taken away by the vast expanse butterfly. However, if it is only a little bit of the soul. Vast expanse butterfly, oh vast expanse butterfly. Whether you can achieve your wish and escape from the mouth of the Nether Lord will all depend on your ability. Saint Kai Wei sighed and sat cross-legged in front of the ancient tree. She patted her head and her primordial spirit immediately flew out of her body and entered the ancient tree that was full of nascent fruits. His cultivation base had not improved for many years. To a saint, there were some karma that had to be repaid. Even if he had to pay a price for this matter and suffer some punishment, he would definitely not owe them anything. Chapter 1087. Beneath his feet was the boundless red soil continent. His ears were filled with dead silence. There was not a single sound of wind. The sky was made up of countless specks of light that gathered together to form a vast and boundless starry sky. It had been 3 days since Ning Fan's primordial spirit rushed into this strange place. This strange place was the world inside the mouth of the gigantic human head. His physical body was restrained by the golden hoop. He could not move and was left in the outside world. His primordial spirit rushed into this strange place alone, intending to bring Tu Huang or the sword ancestor back from this place. For this trip, Ning Fan's primordial spirit brought the god exterminating shield and the storage pouch. However, he did not bring the yin-yang locket with him. Instead, he left it inside his dantian. He did not know if he could bring Tu Huang back. He did not know if he could survive this trip and return to his hometown. If he fails this trip and dies here, he could not let the countless human cauldrons in the profound Yin world perish together with him. At the moment he entered this strange place, he even tried to slightly suppress the connection between life and death of the enslavement and other restrictions. In this way, even if he dies, he would not cause any fatal harm to Zhang Yu, old Wu Ba and the others. That's right, he charged into this strange place with the awareness of death in his heart, because this strange place gave him a sense of danger. He did not even have a 1/100000th chance of surviving. Entering this place was definitely the most unwise decision he had ever made in his life. However, even if there was only a tiny chance, he still wanted to give it a try. He was not willing to watch Tu Huang disappear right in front of him. Even though he had already slept with Tu Huang, it was not a reason for him to lose control over his madness for the sake of Tu Huang. As a matter of fact, even if an ordinary human cauldron encountered such an encounter, Ning Fan would definitely save him at all costs given his stubbornness. Even though the outcome would be the same, if it was just an ordinary woman, he would not have such crazy emotions burning in his chest. I don't understand. At this moment, Ning Fan could not understand his own heart. He had countless women around him. If he were to talk about the one he had the deepest feelings for, it would definitely be his first woman, Ji. It wasn't that other women weren't good, it was just that his relationship with Jihe was insignificant. It was due to poverty, and it was the first relationship he had in his life. He treasured it the most, so there was a kind of importance that others couldn't compare with. Mu Weiliang, Su Qiuling Luo Yu. There were many other women whom he valued as much as his life. He wasn't a good man, he wasn't even a good person, however. This was the first time he realized that there was a woman in this world who held a different meaning to him compared to other women. That difference had nothing to do with his feelings. His feelings for Tu Huang were far from being the strongest among all the women. What Tu Huang gave him was an indescribable feeling. It was a kind of intimacy that came out of nowhere. It was a kind of gratitude that came from the bottom of his heart. It was a debt that could not be repaid even after countless reincarnations. That's right, I owe him. At this moment, Ning Fan finally understood the reason why Sovereign Slaughter gave him the most special feeling. Emperor Tu was definitely not the person he had the deepest feelings for. But it was probably the woman that he owed the most in his previous life. I have a feeling that I owed her a lot in my previous life. I owed her a lot. It was so much that even after going through countless reincarnations, I still can't let go of this matter in the depths of my soul. When I saw the remains of the sword ancestor disappearing in front of me at the corpse mountain, I was powerless to stop it. I actually had a feeling that my heart was like dead ashes. It's really unimaginable. This time, when I saw Sovereign Slaughter disappearing, I actually wished that I could turn the entire world upside down. This kind of crazy thought seems to be born in my heart on the surface. But perhaps it's not. Perhaps it's the crazy emotion that remained in the depths of my soul when I flew out of the butterfly's hometown. Sovereign Slaughter is the Sword Ancestor. The Sword Ancestor had already passed away countless years ago. The Sword Ancestor's utmost emotion that formed Sovereign Slaughter's body is the last trace of the Sword Ancestor's imprint in this world. What is that light spot that was swallowed by the gigantic human head? The mysterious sage who stopped me said that I was interfering with the return of the Sword Ancestor's Tao orthodoxy. What is a Tao orthodoxy? Ning Fan's primordial spirit carried the god-exterminating shield and flew close to the dark red continent. He did not dare to fly too high as he was afraid that he would come into contact with the stars in the sky. The stars in this strange place carried unfathomable might at every moment. Previously, he accidentally got close to one of them. As a result, one of the stars released a ray of destructive starlight at a certain moment. It even created a hole in his god-exterminating shield. His primordial spirit was even penetrated by that ray of starlight, leaving him with severe injuries that left him on the verge of death. Moreover, if he recklessly uses his spirit sense in this place, he would certainly trigger the attacks of the mysterious stars. After that, Ning Fan consumed a large amount of pills to suppress his injuries. However, he could only barely suppress them. It was impossible for his injuries to recover at all. His wounds seemed to be constantly torn open by a force that he could not understand. It was his first time encountering such a force. Later on, he searched blindly in this place for 3 days. Because he could not spread his spirit sense across a large area, he could not find the light spot that Sovereign Slaughter had scattered into heaven and earth at all. The pattern of heaven and earth in this place was constantly changing. From the moment he entered this place, he could no longer find the way back. On the 4th day, Ning Fan still could not find Sovereign Slaughter. His primordial spirit and blood essence began to evaporate in this strange place. He felt excruciating pain every second. On the 5th day, his primordial spirit had already shrunk by a large margin. It was only half of its original size. His chi was extremely weak. However, he still stubbornly continued to search in this place. On the 6th day, Ning Fan's primordial spirit finally could not hold on any longer. He fainted on the ground. The god-exterminating shield and his storage pouch also fell on the red soil. The 7th day, the 8th day, the 9th day, Ning Fan never woke up again. His primordial spirit and blood essence were completely evaporated. His primordial spirit that had shrunk to its limit eventually turned into steam and dissipated in this strange place, returning to nothingness. It's only been 9 days and you're already dead? If you can't hold on for 22 days, I won't be able to help you even if I want to. After all, the illusionary world that you're in is too far away from me. It's too far away. I need time to connect the two worlds with my sense. In the boundless starry sky, Sage Kai Wei sighed regretfully. Her voice seemed to come from an extremely distant place. On the 10th day, on the 11th day, the storage pouch that was lying quietly on the ground suddenly shot out a ray of moonlight. At the moment when the moonlight appeared, the time power in the surrounding space strangely flowed in reverse. Prajna Parmitha. It was the incantation that Ning Fan had placed in the storage pouch in advance. As time flowed in reverse, Ning Fan's fallen primordial spirit actually recovered and reconstructed itself bit by bit. In the end, Ning Fan, who was supposed to die on the 9th day, was resurrected on the 11th day. That was close. If I didn't call out the Moonlight Treasure Box's true name before attacking the sacred mountain, I would most likely have died in this strange place. Ning Fan said with lingering fear. His fear towards this strange place had risen to an unprecedented level. His primordial spirit waved its small hand and kept the storage pouch and the god-exterminating shield into its embrace. It tied the small shield to his chest, making it look like a slightly protruding breastplate. The storage pouch was carried on his back. Then, he took out the Moonlight Treasure Box from the storage pouch and studied it carefully. He realized that a quarter of the saint's will inside the treasure box had actually been used up because of his resurrection. In other words, the remaining will of the saint was only enough for him to die 3 times in this place. The so-called Moonlight Treasure Box was actually the pig-faced treasure box's true name. When Ning Fan awakened his innate talent of communicating with all living things, he heard this true name from the treasure box. It was quite magical. Before knowing the true name of the Moonlight Treasure Box, the steps to use it were extremely complicated. One must first set a mark in a certain area before it could be used. When Ning Fan learned the true name of the Moonlight Treasure Box and used it, he actually had a strange feeling of becoming one with the box. When he used it again, he could use it at any time and place even if there was no mark in advance. Besides, there were no restrictions such as the number of times it could be used, the cooldown time and so on. Since then, the Moonlight Treasure Box had 2 completely different ways of using it. It could be used as a mark in its normal state and as a non-mark in its true name. When using it without a mark, there were 3 things to note. Firstly, it could only allow Ning Fan, the owner of the treasure box, to go back in time alone. It couldn't change the time of everyone around him like when he used the mark. In other words, Ning Fan could be resurrected by reversing the flow of time without a mark, but others couldn't. They could only do it if they were marked in advance. Secondly, when it was used without a mark, the consumption of the saint's will in the Moonlight Treasure Box was huge. If the level of the attack that caused death was too high, the consumption would be even higher. Thirdly, when it was used without a mark, there would be a certain delay. It could be 1 to 4 hours or 1 to 2 days. The delay was not fixed according to the surrounding environment and the cause of death. This was also the reason why Ning Fan was only revived by the Moonlight Treasure Box after a delay of 2 days. Oh, you actually came back to life with the Moonlight Treasure Box of the Extreme Een Sacred Sect? I thought you had already died here. It seems like I have underestimated you. Saint Kai Wei's voice carried a hint of surprise. Her voice reverberated across heaven and earth. Ning Fan's primordial spirit was stunned. He kept the Moonlight Treasure Box into his storage pouch and carefully spread his spirit sense across the area. Because the coverage of his spirit sense was too shallow, he naturally could not find the hiding place of the speaker. Retract your spirit sense. Don't spread it beyond 10 zhang. It was Kai Wei's friendly reminder. Ning Fan was instantly surprised. Judging from the voice, the person who was reminding him was obviously the mysterious saint who stopped him from using the Fu Li spiritual wheel to gather the remnant soul of Sovereign Slayer. Why did this person kindly remind him? Is he really doing it out of kindness, or is he plotting something else? Ning Fan had experienced too many schemes and schemes. Facing a mysterious saint of unknown origin, he was naturally extremely cautious. Even though he was cautious, he still acted according to the advice. He retracted his spirit sense to around 10 zhang and did not continue to search for the whereabouts of this mysterious saint. After all, he could also see that it was not advisable to spread out his spirit sense too much in this place. This place is the underworld Earth. It's the place where all the supreme beings who once possessed the Tao orthodoxy of heaven and earth return to after their deaths. Each of the stars was formed by the extremely powerful beings among the saints after their deaths. Moreover, some of the stars in this place were formed by fourth-step immortal sovereigns. Don't go near those stars. Even though you have one of the fragments of the God-exterminating shield of the ancient country, you are still just an insignificant ant in front of those stars. You need to be respectful. Underworld Earth? It was Ning Fan's first time hearing this term. He could not help but feel moved. In this place, you can't tell others your name. Otherwise, even the strongest desolate saint among the saints won't be able to leave this place. You will be trapped by the wall of the underworld Earth forever. If you want to find someone, you can't call out that name. Otherwise, you will never be able to find that person. Remember, names are things that transcend reality and illusion. They are the root of the existence of the cultivators in the eyes of the underworld Earth. You might not understand it, but you can't go against it. Saint Kai Wei continued. I can't simply call out names in this place. Ning Fan did not doubt the authenticity of Saint Kai Wei's words. After all, She did not seem to have any reason to lie to him about such things. Inwardly, he felt a little lucky that he did not say a word or call out loudly while searching for Tu Huang in the underworld earth. If he accidentally called out the names of Tu Huang and Sword Ancestor, it would be really troublesome. Thank you for your advice, Senior. Ning Fan was still vigilant, but he still thanked her at the boundless starry sky. You don't have to thank me. I'm not helping you. I'm just fulfilling my own karma. Everything you see in the layout of the underworld earth is illusory. If it's not for desolate sage, you will never find the end of this place if you walk in it. I can't give you directions because the layout of the underworld earth in everyone's eyes is different. However, I can give you some pointers. The layout of heaven and earth in the underworld earth is numeric 9. 9 system? Ning Fan was surprised. Then, the small face of his primordial spirit turned serious. His eyes sparkled with green light. When he looked at this world using the 9 system, he immediately felt different. He silently activated the Force character. Ning Fan did not need St. Kai Wei to continue reminding him. After identifying a direction, he turned left and right and continued moving forward at full speed. The 12th day, the 13th day, the 14th day, the 20th day. Ning Fan's primordial spirit could not endure it anymore and fell once again. On the 22nd day, he was resurrected for the second time with the help of the Moonlight Treasure Box. The remaining saints' will is still enough for me to resurrect twice in this place. The level of this place is too high. Using the Moonlight Treasure Box to resurrect me will consume too much of my energy. Ning Fan's heart was extremely heavy as he continued moving forward. On the 25th day, in the boundless underworld earth in front of him, a strange fragrance suddenly entered his nose. He did not know what the source of that fragrance was. With just a sniff, Ning Fan's weak and shrunken primordial spirit directly returned to its normal size. His chi was full and he no longer felt weak. His spirit was lifted and he continued moving forward. The further he went, the stronger the strange fragrance became. On the 28th day, a 10,000 zhang tall ancient tree appeared in front of him. The ancient tree was filled with fruits in the shape of babies. Countless specks of light condensed into fireflies which parasitized the 10,000 zhang tall ancient tree. Under the ancient tree, a saint in Taoist robes stood with his hands clasped behind his back. He did not have a physical body but a phantom that was condensed from the power of his primordial spirit. When Ning Fan arrived, the saint turned around with a hint of surprise in his eyes. Impressive. I have only given you a few pointers, but you actually managed to reach this place with your comprehension of the great momentum. In terms of bloodline and qualifications, you might be the weakest among all the cultivators in this world. However, in terms of techniques, even among the outstanding ancient immortal venerables, not many of them could do this. Junior Ning. Junior greets Senior. Thank you for your guidance, Senior. Ning Fan could not hide the excitement on his face. After arriving at this ancient tree, he could clearly sense that among the countless fireflies parasitized on the ancient tree, there was one whose chi was similar to that of Slaughter Sovereign and the Sword Ancestor. Finally, I found it. Because he was too excited, he actually forgot about Sage Kai Wei's reminder and nearly blurted out his true name. Fortunately, he noticed it in time and stopped talking. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. Sage Kai Wei praised Ning Fan and no longer said anything else. In her opinion, even though Ning Fan was an outstanding ancient immortal venerables, that was all there was to him. Even though she praised him, it was far from shocking. After all, there were as many ancient immortal venerables like Ning Fan in the true world as there were stars in the sky. I've heard of you, the boundless butterfly. In the past, that person in the Purple Mountain Do Sea personally came forward and asked the people of the Sage sect to give a group of Purple Dipper immortal cultivators a chance to reincarnate. However, there was actually a mortal butterfly among them who had no cultivation base at all. The entire 3 worlds was shocked. Some people even speculated that the 10 ancient spirits of the Purple Dipper Immortal region were not the backup plan of that lord but you and that group of Purple Dipper Immortal cultivators. However, in the end, none of you walked out of the illusory world's reincarnation and returned to the true world. Only then did everyone realize that they had overestimated the cultivation base of the Purple Dipper immortal cultivators who entered the illusory world's reincarnation. Ning Fan remained silent. He was not interested in such secrets. Do you know how reckless you were? You barged into the underworld earth with just a cultivation base at the second step. Even though you have the fragment of the god-exterminating shield of the ancient country and the moonlight treasure box of the extreme Een sacred sect, your cultivation base is still too weak. This is a situation where you will definitely die. If I get involved in this matter, your soul will definitely perish in the underworld earth. Is that woman an important existence that you want to find even if you have to sacrifice your soul? Sage Kai Wei sighed. I don't know if she is important to me or not. Coming here to find her is a kind of instinct. It's a kind of repayment. Ning Fan said calmly. That kind of calmness was because he owed the sword ancestor too much in his previous and current lives. If he really could not save her, he would have an instinct that made him willingly die in this boundless underworld earth with the sword ancestor. Repayment? How do you plan to repay her and leave this place with her remnant soul? Yes. Do you know that she had already died in the past in order to protect your reincarnation? Today, the orthodoxy that was returned to the underworld earth only contains an extremely small trace of her soul. If the soul power of an entire soul is 1 million units, the souls that you have absorbed today are not even 10 units. Besides, even if it's 10 units of souls, the underworld earth won't allow you to take all of them away. Even if I help you to deceive the heavens, you can only take away 1,000th of the souls from these 10 units at most. Such a small number of souls is almost useless. In order to take away such a large number of souls, the price you have to pay might be your life. Ning Fan remained calm as if he did not hear what Sage Kai Wei said. He was looking at one of the countless fireflies on the ancient tree. The number of souls that you can take away is too little. Besides, you can't even take a trace of the most important orthodoxy. What do you want to do by taking away so few souls? Resurrect her? Not to mention that you have only cultivated the first wheel of the 5 spirit wheels. Even if you cultivate the legendary 4th wheel, you won't be able to do this because her soul is already incomplete. Ning Fan remained silent. Judging from what Sage Kai Wei said, even if he takes away Tu Huang's soul today, he would not be able to resurrect her. However, if he does not give it a try, he would not be satisfied. I'm not saying this to stop you from doing what you want to do. I just want you to be mentally prepared. As a sage, I can see the destinies and fortunes of all second-step cultivators. Your destiny and hers do not intersect. Unless you are stronger than the destinies and fortunes, you won't be able to change this. Ning Fan remained silent. Sage Kai Wei looked at Ning Fan deeply, as if she was getting to know him again. Then she praised him. What a determined little fellow. This old man's words can't even make you waver a little? Yes. What do you plan to do next? I'll try to see if I can take away the fireflies that are the remnants of her soul. Take away the whole one? I've already told you. You can only take away 1,000th of it. Forget it. You are too stubborn. Anyway, the power of your treasure box is still enough for you to be resurrected twice. If you don't realize how difficult this matter is, you won't turn back. Just as Sage Kai Wei's sigh fell, Ning Fan had already turned into a shadow and dashed towards the ancient tree. He leaped and soared into the sky, trying to take the firefly that was the remnant soul of Tu Huang into his hand. At this moment, the entire ancient tree suddenly emitted a boundless aura. Then the entire great emperor of the underworld earth turned into an unbelievable scene in Ning Fan's eyes. The boundless dark red continent turned into a boundless giant palm and clenched it fiercely. Ning Fan's vision turned black. Before he could even touch the firefly, he was already killed by the giant palm that was the entire underworld earth. That was a strike that surpassed the 3rd-step immortal emperors. It was a strike that surpassed most 4th-step immortal emperors. Killing Ning Fan was like killing an ant. After that strike, the entire underworld earth returned to its original state. Sage Kai Wei and the ancient tree were still at their original spots as if they had never moved at all. It was as if the clenching of the entire continent was just an illusion that did not affect these existences at all. On the 30th day, Ning Fan was resurrected under the moonlight. The remaining will of the treasure box was only enough for him to be resurrected one last time. The expression on Ning Fan's primordial spirit's face was extremely unpleasant. He was unwilling to admit it, but he had to admit that the current him could not take away all the remnant souls of Tu Huang that he had absorbed earlier. No, he could not even take away 1,000th of them. After the Saint Realm, there are 3 great cultivation realms: Incipient Saint, Nirvana Saint, and Desolate Saint. I'm a Desolate Saint and I'm one of the top experts among the Desolate Saints. However, even if I use all my strength, I can only help you take away a few remnant souls. Besides, after this matter, I will be heavily punished. As for you, you won't be able to do it at all. This isn't something that can be solved by courage and fighting spirit. I hope you can recognize the reality. Sage Kai Wei sighed. This matter will even implicate Senior? Why does Senior want to help me? Ning Fan's expression became complicated. If he were to take away a trace of Tu Huang's soul, he would need Kai Wei's power. If this matter might even bring Sage Kai Wei punishment, Ning Fan had no choice but to consider Kai Wei's standpoint. He could give up his life for Tu Huang, but he was not willing to get involved in other people's karma. I've already said that I'm not helping you. Instead, I'm ending my own karma. It's the choice I made in order to advance to the 4th step in the future. It's difficult for existences like me to help others for friendship and recognition. Everything is for benefits. You don't owe me anything and you don't have to feel that you owe me anything. Of course, don't expect me to make a greater sacrifice for you. Junior understands Senior's meaning. Then, what should I do next to take away a trace of her soul? Next, I will fight against the entire underworld earth with the power of my primordial spirit. You will protect me. Don't be afraid of getting hurt. Within the range of the fragrance of this divine tree of underworld earth, any injuries at the 2nd step can be healed instantly. You can fight with your life on the line. As she said that, Kai Wei's expression turned solemn. Both of her hands moved rapidly, leaving afterimages. In an instant she made thousands of hand seals. All of a sudden, the entire underworld earth shook violently. Millions of ancient phantoms floated out from the ground. All of them were wearing ancient clothes. Each of them had a powerful chi. The weakest among them was at the 2nd step, while there were hundreds of immortal emperors. Among them, there was no lack of quasi-saints and ancient great cultivators. Be careful. The first batch of phantoms of the underworld earth is left behind by the disciples of the saints of those orthodoxies after they returned to their positions. They are immortal and indestructible. I must fight against the Nether Star in this place. I can't afford to be distracted. You will deal with these phantoms. Remember not to let these phantoms get close to me and affect my actions. Otherwise, I can only apologize to you. I can no longer help you take away a trace of her soul. I can only leave now. Chapter 1088. Ning Fan's heart skipped a beat. Currently, he was just in his primordial spirit form. His combat power was definitely not at his peak. What he had to do was to protect Kai Wei and resist the ancient existences that numbered more than 10 million, which included a large number of immortal emperors, quasi-saints and ancient great cultivators. It was a nearly impossible task, but Ning Fan had no other choice. He could only brace himself and face it. Either he gave up on taking away the trace of Tu Huang's soul, or he used everything he had to stop the ancient existences of the underworld from interfering with Kai Wei. As soon as Kai Wei finished speaking, she sat cross-legged on the ground and closed her eyes. At the same time, a massive saints will spread out from her body and soared into the sky, clashing against the vast and boundless star sea will. All of a sudden, the entire underworld seemed to be divided into two. Half of the Star River was controlled by the underworld earth, while the other half was controlled by Kai Wei. Each of the stars in this place was formed by the experts who once possessed a Tao orthodoxy after they died. They were the proof of the immortality of powerful existences. The wills that were left behind until now could be said to be vast and boundless. Kai Wei was a desolate saint among the saints. However, she was still not strong enough to control half of the star river of the underworld Earth. It was an act of overestimating herself. It was equivalent to fighting the wills of thousands of saints of Tao orthodoxy with her own strength. It was also a nearly impossible task. It was a battle between heaven and man. It was a clash of wills. The process was silent and there were no complicated techniques involved. It gave people a sense of tranquility. However, under this tranquility, there was an unimaginable danger. Kai Wei had only clashed once with the starry sky will and 90% of her primordial spirit had already collapsed. She almost died. Fortunately, there was still 10% of her primordial spirit that had yet to collapse. The place where she sat was right below the underworld earth divine tree. Under the healing effect of the tree's fragrance, Kai Wei's severe injuries were healed in an instant. Her primordial spirit was restored to its original state. Then, he exerted all his will again and fought against the star will that filled the starry sky. Without the protection of the underworld earth divine tree, Kai Wei did not have the confidence to fight against the underworld earth divine tree. However, at this moment, she had a trace of confidence. Every time she was on the verge of death, every time she recovered, every time she resisted, every time her wills clashed. The tremendous chi that came from the clash of wills made Ning Fan excited. A battle of wills at this level was 10,000 times more dangerous than a battle of magical techniques. It was definitely something Ning Fan had never seen in his life. If it were him, facing the encirclement of the will of the saints in the sky, he would probably be wiped out in a single move. It was impossible for him to be like Kai Wei Sheng, who was lucky enough to preserve 10% of her primordial spirit and use the underworld earth divine tree to heal her injuries. Kai Wei Sheng shouldered the greatest risk on her own shoulders, leaving Ning Fan with only an insignificant part of it. Ning Fan felt a trace of gratitude towards this unknown and mysterious sage. Perhaps the other party was just fighting for the sake of his own karma. However, it still gave Ning Fan a chance to rescue the others from the underworld earth. This was an opportunity that Ning Fan could not obtain with his own strength. Even if there were tens of millions of ancient existences obstructing him, he couldn't let this chance slip by. If you want to seize the netherworld earth soul, kill without mercy. There were over 10 million ancient existences, so it was naturally impossible for all of them to attack in this small space. Moreover, because they were wary of Kai Wei Sheng, the most powerful group of people did not show their faces first, and instead hid behind to observe. The group that was the first to charge at Kai Wei Sheng was just a small group of people at the front. They were like a suicide squad. There were only a few hundred of them. Most of them were Life Immortal Realm and True Immortal Realm experts. The leader of the group was a young immortal venerate who had experienced an eternal tribulation. His body was originally illusory and he was wearing an illusory armor. In addition to his skinny body, he gave people a feeling that he was too weak to withstand a gust of wind. It was as if a gentle breeze could blow this young immortal venerate away. However, when Ning Fan stood in front of this group of people and exchanged blows with this young immortal venerate, he immediately felt the terror of this young immortal venerate. Those ancient illusory figures of Life Immortal Realm and True Immortal Realm experts were easily turned into ashes by Ning Fan's wind and fire palm leaf fan. From each of their bodies, a ray of fiery light floated out and flew back to the underground of the underworld earth. However, this young immortal venerate who was the leader had withstood all the attacks of the wind and fire palm leaf fan with his illusory armor and remained unscathed. This was not something that most doomsday immortal venerates could do. After dispersing the flames and smoke that filled the sky, this person landed a punch on the god-exterminating shield in front of Ning Fan's primordial spirit. It was because there was already a hole on the god-exterminating shield that had yet to be repaired. That fist force penetrated a part of the shield and directly hit Ning Fan's primordial spirit. Being caught off guard, Ning Fan let out a muffled groan and retreated while coughing out blood. His primordial spirit's face was still as calm as an ancient well, but his heart was shaken. The other party was clearly just an ancient one tribulation celestial venerable, But the might of a casual punch was actually more powerful than many celestial kings from the Age of Chaos. This was the power of an ancient celestial venerable. Along the way, people would address him with this title from time to time. However, only now did he realize how powerful this title was. Ancient Immortal Venerables and Doomsday Immortal Venerables were two completely different existences. He had swept through all the Immortal Venerables and Immortal Kings from the end of days with his Immortal Venerable cultivation, but this wasn't something worth boasting about at all. This was because eternal immortal sovereigns of this level could be found everywhere in ancient times. It wasn't that the ancient Immortal Venerables were too strong, but that the Immortal Venerables of the end of days were too weak. If you want to seize the Netherworld Earth Soul, kill without mercy. After sending Ningfan's primordial spirit flying with a single strike, the young Immortal Venerable charged at him with a cold expression again. He was not a living person. Instead, he was a phantom that was deduced by the power of the Netherworld Earth after he died here. The coldness in his expression was actually the killing intent he had when he was alive. Even though that kind of killing intent was not as strong as Ningfan's, it was much scarier than many Doomsday Immortal Kings. One could imagine that this young Immortal Venerable was definitely a peerless figure when he was alive. Ningfan forcefully stabilized his retreat. With the help of the unique fragrance of the Netherworld Divine Tree, his injuries were instantly healed. His primordial spirit performed a hand seal and innate magic treasures flew out one after another from the storage pouch he carried on his back. The battle intent in his eyes did not diminish. Even though he was shocked by the strength of an ancient Immortal Venerable, he was not afraid at all. It was because he had a reason that he could not retreat at this moment. Not to mention an ancient Immortal Venerable, even ancient Immortal Kings, ancient Immortal Emperors, ancient Quasi-Saints and ancient Grand Cultivators would not be able to pass through his defense. Rumble.it was the divine lightning mirror that shot out a purple lightning bolt at the young Immortal Venerable. However, the young Immortal Venerable caught the purple lightning bolt with both of his hands. His cold eyes were filled with disdain. Bang.it was the sneak attack of the Jialuo Emperor using the Devil Subduing Bead and the Divine Lightning Mirror. It made the young Immortal Venerable who thought that he had successfully defended himself spurt out blood and fell to the sky. His illusory armor was slightly broken. Moreover, when the young Immortal Venerable lost control of his magic power, he was tightly tied up by the lightning prison rope. The young Immortal Venerable was shocked. Before he could react to the situation in front of him, he was trapped in the center of the 24 poisonous banners in the blink of an eye. It was Ningfan's 5 Venom Banner. As soon as he was trapped, Ningfan immediately activated the power of the Yin-Yang Poison Technique to its maximum. The power of the Yin-Yang Poison Technique was used together with the 5 Venom Banner. In an instant, a small area of heaven and earth around the young Immortal Venerable was tainted with poison. The poison blended with the power of heaven and earth. It was extremely difficult to defend against. It could be said to be all-pervasive, turning the illusory armor of the young Immortal Venerable into a mere decoration. Under the billowing poisonous smoke, the young Immortal Venerable who had his magic power sealed by the lightning prison rope no longer had any strength to resist. He was melted by the poison power of the 5 Venom Banner and turned into a pool of blood. After he died, a ray of light like a firefly flew out from the pool of blood and entered the land of the Netherworld. This scene would happen every time a phantom died. In order to kill this young Immortal Venerable in one fell swoop, Ningfan had used 5 innate magic treasures in succession. It consumed a lot of his magic power and he even suffered some injuries. Fortunately, this place was protected by the Underworld Earth Divine Tree. The magic power that he consumed would be replenished in an instant. The injuries that he suffered could be healed in an instant, giving Ningfan the possibility of continuing the battle. Ningfan had never heard of such a strange tree. Today was his first time encountering it. With this tree protecting him, wouldn't it mean that he would not have to worry about his magic power, injuries, and other problems during a battle? At the same time, Ningfan also discovered that this Underworld Earth Divine Tree seemed to only be able to heal the injuries of living people and restore their magic power. It could not provide any help to the lifeless phantoms of the netherworld. Otherwise, it would be much more difficult to kill this young immortal venerable. After Ning Fan killed 1,000 ancient phantoms, more phantoms immediately rushed over. Those weak life immortal realm and true immortal realm beings could not even get within 1,000 zhang of sacred Kai Wei before they were instantly killed by Ning Fan's innate magic treasures. Blood mist filled the sky. However, there were still a few ancient immortal venerables and immortal kings blocking the attacks of the innate magic treasures. They charged towards Ning Fan coldly. The oppressive feeling that they gave Ning Fan when they joined forces was not any weaker than a single sixth tribulation immortal emperor during the age of Dharma decline. After killing the young immortal venerable, Ning Fan was already rather fearful of these ancient immortal venerables and immortal kings. Even though he only had his primordial spirit in his body, he still summoned the Dharma image of the god-destroying giant. The giant held the god-destroying shield in his left hand and the ocean-defying sword in his right. His body was surrounded by many innate magic treasures. As he let out a furious roar, the aura force of his divine spirit turned into waves of ripples that reverberated in the surroundings. It actually caused the strange Tao principles that filled the netherworld to be slightly disturbed. All of a sudden, the indifferent faces of the immortal venerables and immortal kings who were charging towards Ning Fan finally showed a hint of shock. It was not just these few people. At this moment, none of the millions of ancient phantoms that covered the sky were unafraid of Ning Fan's divine spirit aura force. That kind of fear had nothing to do with their cultivation base. It was an emotion that only ancient cultivators who had witnessed the terror of a divine spirit with their own eyes could feel. Unfortunately, the fear only lasted for a moment. After that, the eyes of these ancient phantoms turned blank. Then, they locked their killing intent on Ning Fan again. The few ancient immortal venerables and immortal kings who were charging at the forefront displayed their abilities, trying to stop Kai Wei from doing what she wanted to do. However, all of their attacks were blocked by the god-destroying giant's giant shield. The god-destroying giant's baleful chi soared into the sky. He stood in front of Kai Wei to protect her like a deity who had lived since ancient times. Even though the god-destroying shield in his hand had a ghastly hole, it did not diminish its might. Feeling the tremendous aura force of the god-destroying giant, all the ancient phantoms in the area wore a solemn expression. At first, there were only a few immortal venerables and immortal kings attacking Ning Fan at the same time. Then, more immortal venerables and immortal kings joined the fray. The eyes of the god-destroying giant were filled with monstrous killing intent. The numerous innate magic treasures that were hovering around him whizzed out. He would kill whoever that came at him. So what if they are ancient immortal venerables? So what if they are ancient immortal kings? If these ancient existences go to any other places in the underworld to cause trouble, he would not interfere. However, he would not allow anyone to trespass the 1,000 zhang of land around Kai Wei. After a few breaths, the god-destroying giant killed the 10 over immortal venerables and immortal kings who were attacking him. However, he also paid a price. Among his many innate magic treasures, one of them was shattered by a single punch from an ancient immortal king. It was the devil-subduing bead of the Jialuo Emperor. As the power of this bead was greatly damaged, he had no choice but to keep it away. Before it was repaired, it could not be used again. After one wave of enemies was killed, another wave of enemies would come. It was like an endless tide that could not be eliminated. The god-destroying giant guarded the 1,000 zhang of land and became an unreasonable god of slaughter. Any ancient phantoms who tried to approach Kai Wei would be forcibly killed by him. After another 100 breaths, the number of ancient immortal venerables and immortal kings killed by the god-destroying giant had already exceeded 100. He had also killed 150 to 60,000 life immortals and true immortals. He had also paid a heavy price. A series of low-grade innate magic treasures were damaged to varying degrees. Before he repaired them, all of them could no longer be used. Gradually, even a Tao weapon like the sea-defying sword was snapped by an ancient immortal king's finger, turning into light and dissipating. Even the wondrous Seven Treasures tree's aura was greatly damaged due to the undying divine fire of an ancient immortal venerable. In the end, there was only one innate magic treasure left circling around the god-destroying giant. It was a clean bottle that emitted a salty sea breeze. It was a mid-grade innate magic treasure, the Flooding World Bottle. Because the primordial thunder cauldron was a treasure obtained in the Battle of the Sacred Mountain, it had yet to be unsealed. The power of the Eastern Mountain divine thunder within it was only a 10th or 20%, so it could not participate in the battle. At this time and place, the Flooding World Bottle was the strongest offensive magic treasure the god-destroying giant could use. Looking at the endless number of ancient phantoms that filled the sky, the god-destroying giant made a decision. He raised the Flooding World Bottle high up, and at the same time, it released a divine light to protect Kai Wei and the underworld earth divine tree behind him. He wanted to flood the world and kill on a large scale. As soon as this treasure was activated, the starry sky in front of the ancient immortal venerables and ancient immortal kings was covered by endless waves in the sky, blocking their vision. Moments later, the raging waves poured down, wanting to drown the entire underworld earth. Such a terrifying attack caused the expressions of countless ancient phantoms to change. Don't panic. It's just a small trick. An ancient great cultivator standing the furthest snorted disdainfully. He raised his hand and pointed at the sky. The sea in the sky that was about to flood was actually torn apart with a bang. Countless water splashed everywhere, but when the water exploded, it sizzled and evaporated by the vast magic power of the ancient great cultivator. It turned into countless wisps of steam and flew back into the Flooding World Bottle. Then, a crack appeared on the Flooding World Bottle. From the beginning to the end, not a single drop of seawater could fall to the ground. The Flooding World Bottle can't be used in front of the ancient great cultivators. The god-destroying giant's heart sank. He put the weakened Flooding World Bottle back into his storage bag. It was wishful thinking to use magic treasures to stop these ancient existences. If magic treasures can't be used, then the god-destroying giant would use his fists to stop them and fight them. After all, not many of the ancient phantoms of the enemy used magic treasures. From this, it could be seen that in the values of ancient cultivators, magic treasures were just external objects while one's own body was the foundation. They believed in using their physical bodies to fight against heaven and earth and using magic power to devour the sun and moon. The god-destroying giant hid his god-destroying shield. His empty fists swept across with essence chi. At this moment, he activated the ancient Devil Mountain breaking strike. A reckless ancient immortal venerable rushed towards the god-destroying giant recklessly. Then, he was hit by the giant's punch, which drained all of his magic power. He was forced to retreat while coughing out blood. His eyes widened and he could not hide the shock and fear on his face. Then, the god-destroying giant threw out the second, third, and fourth punch without any regard for his magic power. The momentum of the 4 punches combined into one and directly killed that ancient immortal venerable. In terms of group attack, the Flooding World Bottle might have a wider range. However, in terms of single target damage, the ancient Devil Mountain breaking strike that was stacked with consecutive hits definitely had the potential to surpass the Flooding World Bottle and become Ning Fan's strongest trump card. However, the prerequisite was that the number of consecutive hits had to reach a certain level. During the battle on the Holy Mountain, Ning Fan needed to consume more than 1,009 revolution pills to be able to unleash 800 ancient Devil Mountain breaking strikes. Now, however, with the powerful recovery ability of the divine tree of underworld soil, Ning Fan no longer had to worry about replenishing his magic power. It was not difficult for him to unleash 800 consecutive hits. Moreover, he could do it without suffering any injuries. It was the best time to use the ancient Devil Mountain breaking strike. He could even try to unleash 900 or 1,000 consecutive hits or even more at this place. Today might be a battle that could not be replicated in his path of cultivation with the ancient Devil Mountain breaking strike. Today, he wanted to use his fists to defend the 1,000 zhang of territory behind him. He wanted to defend the hope of taking away the remnant soul of the slaughtering sovereign. The 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th punches. Another ancient immortal venerable tried to sneak an attack on Kai Wei-shing, but he was crushed by the god-destroying giant's iron fist. He turned into a firefly and went back into the ground. The 10th, the 20th, the 30th, the 40th punch. An ancient immortal king tried to step 1,000 zhang into Kai Wei-shing's territory, but he was killed by the god-destroying giant's iron fist. The 100th, the 300th, the 500th, the 800th. The further it went, the more obvious the effect of the consecutive hits would be. The destructive power of the ancient Devil Mountain breaking strike would also become more terrifying. A single punch would certainly turn hundreds or thousands of life immortal realm and true immortal realm experts into nothingness. Be it ancient immortal venerables or ancient immortal kings, none of them could withstand the destructive power of the ancient Devil Mountain breaking strike after hundreds of consecutive hits. It was as if this punch could split the heavens, split the earth, and annihilate all powerful beings. When the god-destroying giant reached the 800th consecutive hit, even peak 5th tribulation ancient immortal kings would be crushed by a single punch from the god-destroying giant. All of the ancient phantoms' eyes were filled with fear when they looked at the giant. Ordinary life immortal realm and true immortal realm phantoms no longer dared to attack the god-destroying giant by relying on their numbers. Doing so would only result in their deaths. The ancient phantoms whose cultivation bases were lower than 10,000 years old all turned into fireflies on their own and flew back to the underground of the underworld soil. It was because it was pointless for them to stay here any longer. The number of people attacking the god-destroying giant had decreased sharply. However, those who remained until the end were the elites of the elites. They were powerful beings who were not afraid of Ning Fan's 800 ancient Devil Mountain breaking strike. Finally, there was an ancient immortal emperor who could no longer hold himself back and rushed towards Ning Fan. It was an old man whose entire body was covered in flames. Even his hair and beard were made of flames. He had the cultivation base of the 6 tribulations ancient immortal realm. He was clearly just a 6 tribulations ancient immortal emperor. However, the sense of danger he gave Ning Fan was much stronger than that of a 7 tribulation immortal emperor during the Dharma ending era. He was comparable to an 8 tribulation immortal emperor during the Dharma ending era and even slightly stronger than the divine void immortal emperors of the godly void pavilion. Before entering the supreme pill sacred region, Ning Fan could only look up to an existence at such a level. However, at this moment, he had the confidence and strength to be on an equal footing with the other party. At this moment, the god-destroying giant's consecutive attacks had already been unleashed. It was not afraid of the immortal Emperor of Flames at all. The 801st punch, the ancient Devil Mountain breaking strike, was thrown out. In the beginning, the immortal Emperor of Flames did not put the ancient Devil Mountain breaking strike in his eyes. After all, he had never heard of this kind of lost ability of the ancient devils in his long life. Thus he looked down on it. Facing the shadow of the ancient Devil Mountain breaking strike, the immortal Emperor of Flames used his large hand to tear the ground. Instantly, countless fiery cracks appeared in the sky and the fist light was sucked into the cracks. However, at the next moment, the fist light shattered all the cracks with a loud bang. It rushed out from the cracks and landed on the chest of the immortal Emperor of Flames. The immortal Emperor of Flames let out a muffled groan and spurted out a mouthful of blood. He was forced to retreat several hundred zhang before he could regain his balance. His eyes were filled with astonishment. The god-destroying giant's punch actually made a dent in his body which was 1,000,000 times stronger. He took a deep breath and no longer looked down on the god-destroying giant. Then he glanced at the other immortal emperor envoys beside him. This time he was not the only one. The other 3 ancient immortal emperors also rushed towards the god-destroying giant. None of them dared to be careless. Roar! The god-destroying giant let out a furious roar and threw out 4 consecutive punches. Each punch was stronger than the previous one and each punch was stronger than the previous one, forcing the 4 emperors to retreat. While the 4 emperors were retreating while coughing out blood, the god-destroying giant relied on his endless magic power to throw out 100 punches within 2 breaths. At the same time, he increased the number of consecutive punches to more than 900, directly destroying the physical body of one of the 4 emperors. After losing his physical body, that immortal emperor was overwhelmed with shock. His primordial spirit no longer dared to continue fighting. Instead, it turned into the light of a firefly and went back into the ground. In the next round of attacks, the 3 emperors who were forced to retreat looked grim. They summoned the other 10 or so ancient immortal emperors to besiege the god-destroying giant. At this moment, Ning Fan had forgotten the high and mighty respect of immortal emperors and the terror of ancient immortal emperors. In his eyes, there was no longer any distinction between immortal emperors. In his eyes, there was only the thought of throwing punches. 910 punches. 920 punches. 1,000 punches. 1,100 punches. 1,200 punches. 2,000 punches. 2,500 punches. 3,000 punches. With Ning Fan's current cultivation base and his current strength, he would never be able to hit 3,000 consecutive punches. In this process, he could not do it without the help of the divine tree of underworld earth. The ancient devil mountain breaking strike of 800 consecutive punches could destroy the physical body of a 6th tribulation immortal emperor. After 3,000 consecutive punches, each of his punches had the terrifying power to kill an 8th tribulation immortal emperor. The 3,000 consecutive punches had even exceeded the defense of the god-destroying shield. Each of his punches had a backlash which destroyed 80 to 90% of Ning Fan's primordial spirit. Then, under the treatment of the underworld earth divine tree, his injuries were instantly healed. With the help of the underworld earth divine tree, he could disregard the consumption of his magic power and the injuries he sustained. He could do whatever he wanted. He could try the power of the 3,000 ancient devil mountain breaking strike. One after another, the ancient immortal emperors exploded under Ning Fan's punches. If he could not kill them with 1 punch, he would use 2 punches. If 10 punches were not enough, he would use 20 punches. Ning Fan could not hit 3,100 consecutive punches. Otherwise, he would directly die from the backlash. He would not even have the chance to ask the underworld earth divine tree to save him. However, it was not a big deal. After hitting 3,000 punches, Ning Fan would just have to break his combo and hit 3,000 consecutive punches again. After all, his magic power was inexhaustible. After all, his injuries would not kill him. Anyway, his battle intent was getting stronger and stronger. Then let's fight. I don't care if you are an immortal emperor or some other existence. He would not allow anyone to pass through the 1,000 zhang of land behind him. Are all the immortal venerables of the future as strong as this young man? Even us ancient immortal emperors are not his match. Even with the help of the underworld earth divine tree, this young man is just too heaven-defying. If it were any other immortal venerables, they would definitely not be able to do this even with the help of the divine tree. What exactly is this kind of combo technique? There was definitely no such technique in the era where we were alive. Moreover, 3,000 strikes seems to be the limit of this child, and not the limit of this technique. I am very doubtful whether this technique has a limit or not. This kind of mystical divine ability, just which peerless prodigy of the future created it? Countless immortal emperors were blown up and forced to retreat. Deep inside their hearts, they were filled with fear towards the ancient devil mountain breaking strike. Seeing that even a large group of immortal emperors could not kill the god-exterminating giant, the 6 ancient great cultivators and 30 or so quasi-saints finally stopped watching carefully and joined the battle. There were 2 reasons why they did not join the battle until now. Firstly, they were afraid of Kai Wei Sheng. Secondly, they were stunned by the ancient devil mountain breaking strike. They wanted to see what Ning Fan's limit was. If Ning Fan could still hit 5,000 or 8,000 consecutive punches that could even kill them, they might not necessarily dare to join the battle. Unfortunately, after they repeatedly confirmed that Ning Fan's limit was only around 3,000 consecutive punches of the ancient devil mountain breaking strike. This level of damage could even destroy the physical body of a 9 tribulation ancient emperor. Moreover, it was performed by a doomsday immortal venerable. It was really unimaginable. If this matter were to spread out, it would shock and scare any quasi-saints or ancient great cultivators. However, it was not enough to make them feel fearful. "And, since we have decided to join the battle, I suppose you are also prepared to die here, aren't you?" one of the ancient great cultivators said coldly. This person was the one who broke the boiling water and flooded a world. The feeling he gave Ningfan was not much weaker than the ancient chaos great emperor. He was a terrifying existence who could fight against weak saints. Ningfan did not answer him. His battle intent did not diminish at all. However, he had a feeling that he was at the end of the road. Be it a quasi-saint or an ancient great cultivator, even if he managed to hit 3,000 consecutive punches of the ancient Devil Mountain breaking strike, he would definitely not be a match for a single person. Moreover, his opponent was not just a quasi-saint or an ancient great cultivator but dozens of them. The combination of such combat power was enough to destroy the 4 heavens and 9 worlds dozens of times. How could he withstand all of them by himself? However, so what if he can't withstand them? "As long as I am still breathing, none of you will be able to surpass me," the human exterminating divine being roared furiously. His eyes were burning with the flames of battle. He was like a lone wolf facing a group of tigers. He threw out punches without any intention of killing these supreme beings. Instead, he just wanted to hold them back and prevent them from getting close to Kai Wei. At this moment, he was surrounded by countless experts who were far stronger than him with his tiny body. However, he did not feel a trace of fear at all. There was only calmness. He entered this place knowing that he would die. What was there to fear about death? The densely packed punches formed a net of fire. Even though these quasi-saints and ancient great cultivators would not be injured by the crazy rainstorm-like attacks, it was difficult for them to move forward against the punches. Moreover, they needed to defend themselves at all times and could not spare any hands to attack Ningfan. At this moment, Ningfan's crazy attacks without caring about the price he had to pay made him look like a human-shaped cannon. The frequency of his attacks was comparable to the attacks of dozens of 9 tribulation immortal emperors who went all out. Of course, he could only launch these attacks with the help of the divine tree of underworld soil. Even so, it was enough to prove Ningfan's strength. With his immortal venerable realm cultivation base, he was able to defeat dozens of quasi-saints and ancient great cultivators all by himself. He had done something that countless immortal emperors did not dare to attempt. 10 breaths of time passed. They were only 10 zhang closer to Kai Wei while withstanding the intense attacks. 100 breaths of time passed and they were only 100 zhang closer. 500 breaths of time later, more and more quasi-saints and ancient great cultivators began to frown. They realized that when they were close to a certain distance, Ningfan actually wanted to ignite his blood to unleash a stronger punch force to stop them from moving forward. Ningfan's punch was very heavy. It was far beyond the first level of Immortal Venerable Realm. It might not be enough to hurt them, but it would not be easy for them to withstand it without suffering any injuries. If he were to ignite his blood and risk his life, they might really not be able to move forward anymore. Damn it! Are so many of us really going to be stopped by an ant? That would be a great humiliation. Little brat, I won't give you the chance to ignite your blood. At first, I didn't want to use the power of the Dark Star to kill you. After all, I will have to pay a huge price for doing so. However, in order to get rid of you as soon as possible, I have no choice but to use it. One of the ancient great cultivators became impatient after being blocked by Ningfan's punch. In a fit of rage, he drew the power of the stars in the sky. As soon as the power of the stars fell, it killed the entire god-destroying giant. These stars were the condensation of the power of the sage orthodoxy. Besides, it was not the orthodoxy of a single sage but the collective power of countless sages. How could Ningfan possibly defend against it? It was not strange at all for him to die in a single blow. It would be strange if he could survive the attack because it meant that Ningfan possessed a heaven-defying defensive power that was comparable to a fourth-step immortal emperor. Ningfan's figure could no longer be seen on the spot. There was only the god-destroying shield which had lost its owner and the second hole on it. It fell on the muddy ground alone. From the moment Ning Fan began to stop the great army of ancient cultivators to the moment he was killed, only 1 hour had passed. 1 hour. He had only stopped the great army for 1 hour. This was his limit. However, it was also the limit that most of the immortal emperors could not achieve. He overestimated himself. What's the point of sacrificing his life for 1 hour? Ants will always be ants. We can't understand their thoughts. If this young man cherishes his life a little more, he might be able to cultivate to the peak of the second step with his innate potential. Many of the quasi-saints wore disdainful looks on their faces. No one dared to stop them anymore. With a flash, they approached Kai Wei-shing. Just as they were about to attack Kai Wei-shing, she opened her eyes. Her gaze was filled with coldness and she stood up. All the quasi-saints and ancient great cultivators were like cats whose hair stood on end. In shock, all of them desperately retreated 1,000 zhang away. The way they looked at Kai Wei-shing was as if they were looking at a peerless, ferocious beast. Who says that the 1 hour that this young friend fought for is meaningless? You bunch of undead creatures, don't be so proud of yourself. All of you, go back to the underworld and sleep. Kai Wei-shing raised her hand. A huge purple star instantly appeared and rotated on her palm, emitting a boundless, desolate saint aura. Then, the purple star soared into the sky. In an instant, its purple starlight covered all the starlight of the dark star in this place, dyeing it purple. Impossible. You actually have a way to cover the starlight of the dark star. Could it be? Could it be? An ancient great cultivator trembled in fear and flew into the sky to escape. In front of normal second-step cultivators, they were undefeatable ancient great cultivators. However, in front of a desolate saint, they were undoubtedly ants. That's right. I have completely replaced the will of the underworld. Of course, it is only temporary. With my desolate saint cultivation, I cannot control the underworld. After all, it is the relic of the underworld lord. However, Kai Wei-shing mercilessly waved her hand. A ray of purple starlight shot out from her sleeve and killed the escaping ancient great cultivator. Everyone was terrified. Even ancient great cultivators couldn't survive 1 round. This was the terror of a desolate saint. Everyone also learned that this desolate saint was so heaven-defying that he had temporarily replaced the will of the underworld with his own will. No one here could stop this desolate saint, not even the dark star. Instantly, everyone ran in all directions. However, not a single one of them could escape. Kai Wei-shing stretched her hand forward and reached the sky all of a sudden. When she opened her palm, a palm imprint covered the sky and covered the entire underworld continent. After that, her palm fell. All the ancient shadows that fled in all directions were killed by Kai Wei-shing's palm imprint. None of them could fly out of the range of her palm imprint. In this way, the karma can be settled, right? 1 hour. I didn't expect this young man to actually be able to hold on for so long. He even lasted for twice the time compared to the best situation I expected. How amazing! In this way, the number of souls that I can help him take away is a little more than what I expected. Of course, when the Yellow Spring Holy Sect pursues this matter, I'm afraid the punishment will be even greater. Kai Wei-shing smiled bitterly. She sat down cross-legged on the ground and began to regulate her breathing. Even though he had the underworld divine tree to help him heal his injuries when he fought against the will of the dark star of this world, it could not heal the fatigue on the spiritual level. It was all right to be tired. Compared to the joy of settling the karma, this bit of fatigue was nothing. After settling the karma between him and Ji Qingling, he could finally start preparing for the legendary 4th step. Kai Wei-shing waited at this place for another 2 days. 2 days later, a ray of moonlight shone out from the storage pouch that Ning Fan left behind. After that, Ning Fan used up the last bit of will of the saint in the moonlight treasure box to revive himself. At first, Ning Fan was still worried that the 1 hour that he had bought himself was not enough. However, when he found out that the time was more than enough, he immediately heaved a sigh of relief. After a few more days, Kai Wei-shing generously helped Ning Fan leave this world of the underworld. Even when she left, she did not reveal her name to Ning Fan. When Ning Fan's primordial spirit left, his hand was carefully holding a seed that was formed from fluorescence. That was a trace of the remnant soul of the slaughter sovereign that Kai Wei Xing had obtained for him. In other words, it could be said to be the remnant soul of the sword ancestor. Because of your protection, the remnant soul that I obtained was a little more than what I expected. If I force myself to use it, I can actually condense a yellow spring soul seed. However, this has exceeded my previous plan. Senior, may I ask what a yellow spring soul seed is? Don't ask too much. Just take it and plant it. You are so weak. I'm too lazy to scheme against you. You don't have to worry about this. At my level, if I honestly say that I won't scheme against you, then I really won't. I won't even bother to lie. Remember that after you plant the yellow spring soul seed, you must use the best soil to nurture it and water it with the best Tao spring. As long as you are sincere, you will be able to see that woman again one day. As for your trip to the underworld, you better keep this matter to yourself. Don't mention it to anyone, not even the people closest to you. This matter is one of the greatest taboos in the world. Even some incipient saints and nirvana saints are not qualified to know about it. It's not a good thing to know too much. Thank you for your kindness today, Senior. If I have the fortune to go to the true world, I will certainly repay you. There's no need for that. Your karma is a little complicated. It involves the Zido immortal domain, the ancient desolate immortal domain, the Tai Tsong tribulation spirit, the ancient divine spirits, and the god-destroying shield of the ancient country. I don't want to get involved in your karma. I also don't think that there is anything that you can repay me with. Ning Fan naturally did not mind Kai Wei's sharp tongue. He did owe her some karma. Even if she did not want to repay him, he would definitely repay her in the future. He did not know if Kai Wei had really done him a favor or if she had other plans. He could only choose to believe her. He believed that he would be able to meet Tu Huang and the sword ancestor again after getting this soul seed back. He believed that the efforts he had put his life on the line for the past 2 times would not be in vain. Holding the soul seed in his hand, Ning Fan's bitter heart more or less had a hint of hope. All of his magic treasures were damaged during this trip, including the god-destroying shield. All of them needed to be repaired properly. The price he had to pay was not small. However, as long as he could get back a trace of Tu Huang's remnant soul and the possibility of reuniting with her, he would be willing to destroy all of his magic treasures, let alone just having half of them destroyed. Even if he has to exchange his life for hers, he would be willing to do so. I'm already very lucky to be able to return alive from the underworld and bring back a trace of her soul. In this way, I might be able to slightly repay what I owe her in my previous and current lives. It has been 40 days since I entered the underworld. I wonder what's the situation in the Supreme Pill Sacred region. Have those quasi-saints returned? My physical body was lost outside. I wonder if it's still there. Or perhaps, it has already been picked up and destroyed by some despicable cultivators. Ning Fan sighed. That day, his physical body was bound and he could not move at all. He had no choice but to use his primordial spirit to rush into the underworld. At that time, he did not have the time to care about his physical body. Now, however, he had no choice but to care about it. A spatial crack opened. Ning Fan was sent out of the underworld by Kai Wei's ability and returned to the place where Tu Huang had fallen that day. As soon as he returned to the outside world, he was locked onto by thousands of spirit sense experts. Moreover, there were tens of fragmentary thought and immortal venerated realm abilities that were aimed at Ning Fan, trying to kill him who had suddenly appeared in this place. This was not the same as the attack from the phantoms of the underworld that day. Ning Fan was naturally not afraid of this level of attack. His primordial spirit neither dodged nor evaded. With just the toughness of his primordial spirit, he took on everyone's attacks head-on and remained unscathed, shocking everyone. What a strange primordial spirit. It can actually be so tough. It's simply unheard of. Who is this primordial spirit? Does he also want to share? We don't even have enough of Great Devil Ning's physical body. How can we share it with him? Wait. Look at the appearance of this primordial spirit. Doesn't it look the same as Great Devil Ning? This? Damn it. He is Great Devil Ning. Great Devil Ning has returned. He didn't die. His primordial spirit just left his body. We actually coveted his physical body. We will die. We will die. Run! Countless cultivators of Great Desolate Realm who had been guarding this place and refining Ning Fan's physical body for many days fled in fear. Unfortunately, before they could get far, Ning Fan's primordial spirit caught up to them and killed them one by one. Ning Fan would not show any mercy to these enemies. As soon as he used his ability to communicate with all living things, he learned about the actions of these people in the past 40 days from the thoughts of the plants and flowers in this place. They were undoubtedly his enemies. After Ning Fan entered the underworld, his physical body was discovered by some cultivators of Great Desolate Realm who arrived later, who asked Tu Huang to cause such a huge commotion when he fought with someone. It would be strange if no one came to investigate. When these cultivators of Great Desolate Realm who arrived late discovered Ning Fan's physical body, their first reaction was fear. For 3 whole days, none of them dared to act recklessly. Who among the cultivators of Great Desolate Realm could remain calm when they saw Ning Fan? However, on the 4th day, after these people confirmed that Ning Fan's physical body would not move, they heaved a sigh of relief. Some of them guessed that Ning Fan's primordial spirit had left his physical body in this place. Some of them guessed that Ning Fan had died and only his corpse was left intact. Some of them wanted to destroy Ning Fan's physical body, but they realized that ordinary methods could not harm Ning Fan's physical body, which was a divine spirit body at all. They could not even leave a scratch on his body even if they hit him. Some of them became greedy for Ning Fan's powerful physical body and wanted to take it back home to possess it. However, more and more cultivators of Great Desolate Realm came to this place after hearing the news. There were too many monks and not enough gruel. Naturally, they could not let any one of them monopolize Ning Fan's physical body. Thus, someone came up with an absurd suggestion. Using the large cauldron to extract the essence of Ning Fan's flesh and blood and then sharing it with everyone at the scene would certainly benefit in terms of the strength of their physical bodies. Because there were too many monks and not enough gruel, the cultivators at the scene did not spread the news that Ning Fan's physical body was left in this place. Otherwise, there might be stronger existences who would participate in the fight for it. Thus, for 40 days, these people had been using a large cauldron to extract the essence of Ning Fan's flesh and blood and supplement it with various spiritual herbs. Unfortunately, Ning Fan's great 5 elemental physique was too weak. Ordinary true fire could not harm his physical body at all. Instead, the injuries on his physical body had mostly healed under the nourishment of the medicinal power. Occasionally, other people would come to the scene. If they could not kill them in a single move, they would also allow them to participate in the division of flesh. In the end, even when Ning Fan's primordial spirit returned, these people did not manage to obtain any benefits from Ning Fan's physical body. When Ning Fan's primordial spirit left his body, he brought his storage pouch with him. Thus, these people naturally did not manage to obtain any benefits from Ning Fan's physical body. As for the yin-yang locket that was hidden in his dantian, it was even more impossible for it to be discovered by others. Those people could not break Ning Fan's physical body and obtain the yin-yang locket. Even if they managed to obtain it, they would not be able to open it. Even if they managed to open it, they would only be courting death as Zhang Yu was inside. Beside the large cauldron, there was a dog that was on the verge of death. It was not an ordinary dog but a heavenly dog. The reason why Ning Fan killed all the cultivators here in a fit of rage was not only because these people were after his physical body. From the information provided by Hua Hua Chao, Ning Fan learned one thing. When his physical body was not protected by anyone, a heavenly dog crawled out from the ground following his scent. This heavenly dog was the heavenly dog that he had casually planted an illusion technique in the Fire Soul Tower that day and subdued it. On that day, this heavenly dog had actually left the Fire Soul Tower together with Ning Fan. However, after Ning Fan walked out of the tower's door, he was directly teleported back to the surface by the formation of the tower's door. However, this heavenly dog was different. Its identity could not be identified by the formation of the tower's door. Thus, it could not be teleported directly. After walking out of the tower's door, it needed to dig all the way to the Great Brightness Temple on the surface from the depths of the Fire Soul Tower where the Two-World Seal was located. How hard was the rock stratum of the middle state? At least, it was not something that this heavenly dog could dig to the surface in a short period of time. Fortunately, the Heavenly Dog clan had hard claws and teeth. Thus, it dug day and night. After digging for an unknown period of time, it finally reached the surface. However, Ning Fan was no longer in the Great Brightness Temple by then. It had been too long since the second round of the Mausoleum seizing competition ended. It began to search for Ning Fan in the entire Middle State. It began to search for Ning Fan in the entire Supreme Pill Sacred region. It did not know how long it had been searching for Ning Fan, but it still could not find him. It was because Ning Fan in his normal state had a way to conceal his chi and karma. He would not leave any traces for it to find. When Ning Fan lost control of his physical body and released his chi, it finally found him by following the scent of his physical body. However, it realized that what it found was just a corpse. The master that it had followed wholeheartedly was actually dead. Moreover, the corpse of its master was refined and divided by countless ugly people of the great despicable realm. This made this heavenly dog infuriated. Thus, it ferociously rushed towards each of the people of the great despicable realm, trying to stop this matter. However, with its meager cultivation base, it could not take back its master's corpse at all. Instead, it was beaten to a pulp by a group of people of the great despicable realm. If it was not because someone had noticed that this heavenly dog had a special bloodline and could be kept as a spiritual pet, it would have probably been killed by them. Woof, woof, woof. The heavenly dog, which was on the verge of death, suddenly smelled Ning Fan's scent. It struggled to open its eyes and barked happily. It turns out that its master is not dead. That's great. Woof, woof, woof. After the pleasant surprise, it felt as if its wish had been fulfilled. It fell to the ground and breathed no more. Its life force was gone. It closed its eyes peacefully. Ning Fan's primordial spirit frowned and landed in front of the heavenly dog. He raised his small hand and sent his life force into the heavenly dog's body. Finally, the heavenly dog, which had almost lost its life, was saved by Ning Fan. Ning Fan never owed anyone karma. He was not even willing to owe the karma of a heavenly dog. He could not save the complete sovereign slayer. He could only bring back a soul seed. He already felt extremely guilty about what happened to Sovereign Slayer. If another heavenly dog dies because of him, no. From today onwards, I will never let something like this happen again. If I can't even protect the people around me, then what's the point of cultivating the Tao? You are very brave. I can see your heart. You seem to have recognized me and want to serve me as your master. It's fine too. Judging from your innate talent, you seem to be quite good. It's just that your cultivation base is mediocre because you are living in the Heavenly Dog clan and lack the guidance of a great master. From today onwards, I will accept you as my servant. If you remain loyal, I will certainly bring you to the peak of cultivation. This is my promise. Since I have decided to accept you as my servant, I need to give you a name. Let me think. Giving a name is the most troublesome thing. Ning Fan frowned. All of a sudden, he had a flash of inspiration. When he entered the Yellow Spring, he had fallen into the illusion technique of the entrance of the Yellow Spring. In that illusion, he saw the scene of two saints fighting each other. One of them was a saint named Xueling Zi, while the other was a saint named Crow Heavenly Dog. Speaking of which, that Crow Heavenly Dog is also a heavenly dog. I have thought of a majestic name. From today onwards, you shall be called Crow Heavenly Dog. In this world, there were many people who had the same name. He would not be affected by such a small matter. Even if he was, Ning Fan did not care because he was really too lazy to think of a name. Ning Fan, who would never admit that he had plagiarized someone else's name, stroked the heavenly dog's head. When he saw that the heavenly dog's chi gradually returned to normal after absorbing his life force, a smile finally appeared on his face. He was happy for the heavenly dog's survival. Woof woof woof. It was Crow Heavenly Dog's voice. He was overjoyed and grateful to Ning Fan for saving his life. He quite liked his new name. He was even happier because he finally had a reliable master. His life in the future was going to be settled. Take some more pills to heal your wounds. Don't disturb me while I'm casting the rain technique. I want to check the current situation of the Supreme Pill Sacred Region. Those quasi-saints seem to have yet to return from the chaotic space. Could it be that they are still fighting inside? What a pity! The fake map of the two formations of the ancient country and the heaven-opening chi-void wooden box aren't considered a loss. Only the 60% of the extreme yang water will probably benefit their enemies if it falls into their hands, allowing their cultivation base to improve tremendously. However, I had no other choice. If it wasn't for the enticement of great benefits, it would have been impossible for me to lure them into the chaotic space. Unfortunately, I didn't manage to trap the 10 wasps in the end. Ning Fan's expression was a little bitter. He recalled the battle on the sacred mountain. It was such a desperate battle, but in the end, Tu Huang still failed to escape from the schemes of others. He carefully kept his soul seed. Then, his primordial spirit went into his physical body inside the cauldron and broke out of it. Then, he used his magic power to create clothes. Woof woof woof. Crow Heavenly Dog struggled to stand up with his weak body. He spat out a jade bottle from his mouth and pushed it to Ning Fan's feet with his head. Ning Fan was stunned. He picked up the jade bottle and scanned it with his spirit sense. Then, his expression changed. Why would the extreme yang water that I threw into the chaotic space be here? Could it be? Is there really such a coincidence in the creation of this world? Interesting. Ning Fan pondered for a moment and guessed the cause and effect. In the chaotic space, the 10 wasps were the ones who hid the deepest. After knowing that the other 2 items were fake, they snatched the extreme yang water and returned to the outside world. After returning to the outside world, they refused to give up their evil intentions. They wanted to scheme against Ning Fan and Tu Huang. In the end, they were killed by the furious Tu Huang. The extreme yang water that they brought back to the outside world was also lost after the great battle. It was picked up by Crow Heavenly Dog, who had a keen sense of smell. He hid it in his mouth and no one noticed it. Is this how it feels like to have 1,000 gold scattered and come back again? It would be great if that woman named Ji Qingling could also return safely with them. Forget it. It's not my style to sigh. Since things have come to this, I can only think of ways to make up for it. I will look for the best soil and the best Tao spring to water her soul seed. One day, we will meet again. When that time comes, I will properly settle the score with her for leaving without saying goodbye this time. I don't care if you are Tu Huang or the Sword Ancestor. Now that you have become my woman, don't even think about leaving so easily. Chapter 1089. Ning Fan brought Crow Tiango along and rode the black immortal cloud back to the dragon nest on the Stone Flame continent. Due to the unforeseen event that happened to Emperor Tu, Duo Lan would have to stay in this dragon nest and cultivate alone in the future. With that in mind, Ning Fan gave Duo Lan a lot of self-protection items for her cultivation. They were not meant to protect her from attacks. Instead, they were worried that Duo Lan would be cultivating alone. Once something goes wrong, no one would be there to save her. Duo Lan repeatedly asked about Emperor Tu's whereabouts. She was extremely worried. Ning Fan could only remain silent. Hence, Duo Lan, who had a vague feeling that Emperor Tu might have met with misfortune, also remained silent. She was unwilling to believe that the supreme female emperor, who was carefree and unrestrained and made her feel inferior, actually died just like that. Don't let your thoughts run wild. That woman isn't truly dead. One day, I will find a way to bring her back. As for you, I'm afraid you will have to cultivate alone in this place in the future. When my cultivation base is strong enough to erase the curse of the saints of this world, I will come back and bring you away. I'm not worried about your safety. I'm just worried that you will be lonely in the future because you have lost a companion. Senior, you don't have to worry about me. Ever since my father died, I have already gotten used to living alone. Even though I'm the only one here, there aren't so many schemes and harms. It's countless times better than being in the outside world. Then, I will leave for real this time. Take care. Senior, you are the one who should take care of yourself. Pong will wait for you here forever. Ning Fan patted Duo Lan's head and left in silence. The previous time was also a farewell. However, he did not have such a heavy heart like he did now. When he walked out of the dragon nest again, Duo Lan was the only one who sent him off. He no longer had Emperor Tu's indifferent gaze. When he walked out of the dragon nest again, his heart was no longer as calm as before. Uncontrollably, the scenes of him interacting with Emperor Tu appeared in his mind. The Ing Dragon Claw was forced out of Ning Fan's body because it was already damaged. The damage was caused during the great battle in the underworld. It was already irreparable. In the past, if Ning Fan's spiritual equipment was damaged, he would throw it away directly after forcing it out of his body. However, this time, he did not throw away the remains of the Ing Dragon Claw. As soon as he saw this spiritual equipment, he recalled the scenes in the Blood Martial Arena and Emperor Tu. Countless thoughts eventually turned into a silent sigh. While sighing, Ning Fan rode the black immortal cloud and flew away from the extreme Pill Sacred region with Crow Tiango. He no longer wanted to pay attention to Supreme Ox Ghost's transactions and schemes. He had also lost interest in the treasures that were full of schemes in the Sacred Mountain. As for the cultivators of the Dark Race and the Eastern Heaven who were hiding in the Sacred Mountain, Ning Fan was too lazy to pay attention to them. He had more important things to do and was in a hurry to return. Ning Fan finally understood how tormenting it was to owe someone karma but not be able to repay it. At this moment, he only had one wish, and that was to quickly return to the Eastern Sky and save the Ancient Chaos Great Emperor. He owed the Ancient Chaos Great Emperor a lot of karma. If he extended the Ancient Chaos Great Emperor's life, he would be able to repay some of it. The only troublesome thing was that the passage of the realm beasts to the extreme Pill Sacred region had already been destroyed. When Ning Fan leaves the extreme Pill Sacred region, he would have to choose a different world path in order to return to the Eastern Heaven. This meant that the landing point of his return to the Eastern Sky would not be the extreme Dan Divine City that he entered, but somewhere else. The planet would not stop rotating because of a person. The world would not stagnate because of a certain matter. The opening of the extreme Pill Sacred region was indeed a grand event in the Eastern Heaven. However, no matter how grand the event was, there would be a day when it would be forgotten by people. The Eastern Heaven was a place with many battles. The cultivators here might be interested in some grand events, but what they loved more was fighting, killing, and plundering actual benefits to improve themselves. It had only been a year since the opening of the extreme Pill Sacred region, but many cultivators of the Eastern Heaven had already forgotten about it. The extreme Pill Sacred region had also returned to its former desolation. In the third month after the opening of the extreme Pill Sacred region, a cultivator on the Eastern Heaven's ancient Joy planet unearthed a partially damaged innate magic treasure. This incident caused countless forces of the Eastern Heaven to fight over it. Nearly 100 true immortal old monsters died because of this. There were even immortal emperors of the Eastern Heaven who fought over it. In the 7th month after the opening of the extreme Pill Sacred region, a huge battle broke out between the Eastern Heaven-seeking immortal sect and the Mohai sect. It was a battle between two immortal venerables. The cause of the battle was to fight over the remains of an ancient immortal king's cave. In the 10th month after the opening of the extreme Pill Sacred region, an eternal tribulation immortal venerable died tragically for unknown reasons. After his death, his forces were divided by several immortal venerables. It was another reign of terror. In the 13th month after the opening of the extreme Pill Sacred region, a war broke out in the White Bird Star region. More than 10 true immortal sects were involved in this matter. The cultivation planets of the White Bird Star region had snow all year round and the climate was very cold. It wasn't suitable for most cultivators to live in, but it was extremely suitable for cultivators with ice attribute cultivation techniques to live here. This was the paradise of ice cultivators. The ice cultivators who cultivated in this star region occupied hundreds and thousands of cultivation planets. The number of ice cultivators was never less than 1 million. Among them, there were 16 true immortal sects that were located here. They joined forces to establish the White Bird Alliance and managed all the ice cultivators who came here to cultivate. Every ice cultivator who came here to cultivate had to pay a certain amount of protection fee before they could cultivate in this star region. The cultivators who came here to cultivate had to abide by the iron rules set by the White Bird Alliance. They had to abide by their duties and were not allowed to fight recklessly. Because of the existence of the White Bird Alliance, this star region was still considered peaceful in the past. It was considered an anomaly in the war in the eastern sky. However, even such a peaceful star region was involved in a war. Recently, a devil appeared out of nowhere and declared war on the entire White Bird Alliance with his own strength. This matter shocked the true immortal circle in the eastern sky. The devil who declared war on the White Bird Alliance was called the Three-Fingered Old Devil. This name had an origin, and that was that cultivators of the same level as him couldn't take 3 of his fingers. Often, the second finger could kill all cultivators of the same level. If the third finger was used, it could kill people of a higher level. This was a powerful devil that was invincible among cultivators of the same level. At this moment, in the cold star region of the White Bird Star region, the Three-Fingered Old Devil stood with his hands behind his back. The powerful aura of a newly advanced immortal venerable swept out, causing the thousands of Alliance cultivators surrounding him to feel a chill. Among the thousands of cultivators surrounding him, almost all the elites of the 16 White Bird sects were gathered here just to kill the Three-Fingered Old Devil. Trash. A bunch of trash. What bullshit, White Bird Alliance, it's just a child's play. This old man can kill all of you by myself. It seems like the 16 sects of the Alliance are all here. Good, this is too good. This saves this old man from wasting time and looking for you one by one. Men kill all of them. Women have to. The Three-Fingered Old Devil's face was full of evil. His gaze swept across the thousands of female cultivators and immediately caused countless female cultivators to fly into a rage out of humiliation. These words enraged one of the fragmented thoughts who was besieging the cultivators. With a roar, he took the lead and charged towards the Three-Fingered Old Devil. That was an old man riding on a wine gourd. He was slightly weaker than the Three-Fingered Old Devil. He was an old monster who was half a step into the immortal venerable realm. His aura was vast and boundless. He was the #1 old monster in the 16 White Bird sects and was known as the Wine Heaven Monarch. Normally, he was crazy and had a playful attitude. But today, the Wine Heaven Monarch's heart was frighteningly sober and frighteningly cold. There wasn't any drunkenness in his eyes, only the blood red of hatred. The Wine Heaven Monarch killed his way towards the Three-Fingered Old Devil. He couldn't hide the anger in his heart and his eyes were about to split. Just a few days ago, several of his female disciples, who he treated as his own, were dismembered by the Three-Fingered Old Devil in front of countless passers-by when they were out. He even cut off some parts of his female disciples and kept them as a collection. His methods were truly outrageous. This enmity was absolutely irreconcilable. He must kill this devil today. Wine Heaven Monarch, I heard that your drunken sword skill is extremely powerful, but I wonder if you can force me to use the third finger. The Three-Fingered Old Devil sneered in disdain. In the midst of his disdainful voice, the Wine Heaven Monarch had already approached within 3,000 feet. He lifted his foot and stepped on the wine gourd. Immediately, a stream of wine mist flew out from the gourd and rushed towards the Three-Fingered Old Devil. At first, the wine mist was just a misty fog, but when it was 1,000 feet away, the wine mist suddenly condensed and turned into a cold sword light that was 7 zhang long and 7 qi long. It slashed towards the Three-Fingered Old Devil's head. The Three-Fingered Old Devil dodged to the side. Not far behind him, an abandoned planet covered with white snow was directly slashed apart by the sword light, shattering the planet into pieces. The Wine Heaven Monarch changed his finger seals, and the cold sword light was divided into 10, and then into 100. Suddenly, 100 sword lights that were powerful enough to slash apart the stars shot towards the Three-Fingered Old Devil. The Three-Fingered Old Devil laughed and didn't put these sword lights in his eyes. He raised his hand and pointed a finger. The cold ice chi in the entire starry sky was condensed at the tip of his finger. With a single finger, the 100 sword lights that were attacking him were all frozen in an instant. Then he pointed another finger at the Wine Heaven Monarch. With the Wine Heaven Monarch as the center, the surrounding starry sky began to freeze crazily. Even the Wine Heaven Monarch was no exception. With a horrified expression, he was frozen to death and turned into an ice sculpture. Hiss! Countless cultivators of the Alliance were shocked to death. No one had expected that the number one expert of the Alliance, the Wine Heaven Monarch, couldn't even withstand the second finger of the three-fingered old devil. A half-step immortal venerable was killed by 2 fingers. The devil name of the three-fingered old devil was indeed not fake. He was truly a terrifying existence that was unrivaled in the same realm. Ha! All of you can come together. Don't waste this old man's time. The three-fingered old devil was arrogant. He looked at the surrounding cultivators as if they were nothing. His action immediately angered all the cultivators of the Alliance. Immediately, more than a dozen late and peak thought fragmentation cultivators joined hands and attacked the three-fingered old devil. The rest of the cultivators occupied the starry sky and activated the absolute kill grand formation. They wanted to cooperate with the thought fragmentation cultivators to kill the three-fingered old devil. The three-fingered old devil's eyes flashed fiercely and shouted, "One finger freezes the mountains and rivers." He raised his finger and pointed. The cold light instantly covered the entire starry sky. The 3 fastest thought fragmentation cultivators were directly frozen to death. The other thought fragmentation cultivators who were behind were also blown away by the power of the three-fingered old devil's finger. Each of them spurted out blood and retreated. The absolute kill formation that was set up by thousands of cultivators was frozen and then broken into pieces. Among the thousands of cultivators, nearly half of them were turned into ice sculptures. They were swept away by the cold force and died a violent death. How can this devil be so strong? Even an eternal tribulation immortal venerable might not necessarily be stronger than him. Countless people were frightened and frightened. An eternal tribulation is nothing. Since several months ago, I have completely mastered the heaven freezing finger. This old man has also killed a first tribulation immortal venerable. Unfortunately, the entire eastern sky doesn't know that the murderer is this old man. From today onwards, the title of Eastern Sky's number 1 devil is no longer that outdated Sun Luo, but this old man. The three-fingered old devil laughed loudly. While laughing, he raised his finger and pointed, slaughtering the cultivators of the Alliance one by one. Some people wanted to escape, but they found that even the starry sky here was frozen. They couldn't use escape techniques to escape from here. When the last peak thought fragmentation cultivator of the Alliance was killed by the three-fingered old devil, all the cultivators of the Alliance lost the courage to continue resisting. The three-fingered old devil looked down at the few remaining Alliance cultivators from above. His expression was incomparably arrogant, as if the current him could truly become the Eastern Sky's number 1 devil, showing disdain for all heroes by wiping out the White Bird Alliance. He began to fantasize that after killing all the men here, he would play with all the female cultivators here. After that, he would go to the next star field and bully the men and women. How delightful! This is true cultivation. This is true devil cultivation. Don't feel unreconciled. Being able to die in the hands of this number 1 devil of the Eastern Sky is your honor. This old man will press the last finger and send you all back. Before he could finish speaking, old devil Three Fingers let out a muffled groan and flew forward without warning. Behind him, unfortunately, there was a space crack that suddenly tore open. Because this space crack opened too suddenly and too violently, the three-fingered old devil didn't have enough time to guard against it. He was injured by the tearing power of space and fell into the void in front of him. There was no longer any trace of the high and mighty devil venerable image. A second ago, he still boasted of being the number 1 devil of the Eastern Sky. The next second, he was lying in the starry sky in a sorry state. He stood up with difficulty. His expression was gloomy and frightening, as if he had been greatly humiliated. Who is it? Who is scheming against this old man? Daring to make this old man a fool, this old man will tear you into pieces. I will use your life to increase my name as the #1 devil of the eastern sky." The three-fingered old devil angrily roared and raised his finger to press down on the space crack. He wanted to freeze this person to death before he could walk out of the crack. The cold air carried a trace of the power of the Tao. It swiftly and violently formed a snake in the starry sky. But unexpectedly, before his cold air could approach the space crack, it inconceivably melted and evaporated on its own. The three-fingered old devil was shocked. Ever since he had cultivated the heaven-freezing finger, there had been people who could withstand his first finger. However, this was the first time he had encountered someone like this who could directly evaporate his cold air. The person who had come was definitely not a fragmented thought. It was very likely that he was also an ancient immortal venerable. Moreover, he was definitely not a weak immortal venerable. So what if you're an ancient immortal venerable? This old man has even jumped realms to kill a one tribulation immortal venerable. Why should I be afraid of you? Second finger freezing star. Third finger freezing sun and moon. Fourth finger freezing world. He actually used all 4 of the heaven-freezing finger's finger seals in one breath. The heaven-freezing finger was an extremely powerful divine ability. Even a second tribulation immortal venerable could use it as a trump card. At this moment, the three-fingered old devil had even used his 4th finger. His cold sense turned into hundreds and thousands of ice dragons which crashed into the space crack. The three-fingered old devil was extremely confident. He firmly believed that even if the other party was an ancient immortal venerable, he would also be severely injured by this cold air. However, a strange scene appeared again. Before the ice dragons could reach the space crack, they were melted by the vast magic power that came out of the space crack. Then, Ning Fan's expression turned cold. He stepped on a dark cloud which carried Crow Tiango and flew out of the space crack. Some of the people who had seen Lord Yu's portrait immediately exclaimed when they saw Ning Fan's appearance. "Immortal Lord Yu! It's actually him. Didn't he enter the extreme Dan's sacred region? Could it be that he has already returned? Why is he here? Could it be that he is the accomplice of the three-fingered old devil who wants to kill all the cultivators of the White Bird Alliance? Yes, that must be it. It can't be wrong. That immortal Lord Yu is infamous for his ferocious deeds. In the past, he annihilated the Anti-Ning Alliance. It's not strange at all that he wants to annihilate our White Bird Alliance. It's over. It's all over. We can't even defeat the three-fingered old devil. Now that immortal Lord Yu is here as well, we will definitely die. What's there to be afraid of? Even if I die, I will die while charging forward. I will never wait for death to come." Black lines appeared on Ning Fan's forehead. He did not expect that he would be involved in a storm just as he walked out of the extreme Dan's sacred region. Moreover, he was directly treated as an accomplice who came to annihilate a sect, three-fingered old devil? What the hell is that? I've never heard of him before. Is he an old devil who has been living in seclusion in the eastern heaven? Did he come out to wreak havoc after mastering a devil technique? This person even claims to be the #1 devil of the eastern heaven? How dare he dream of having such a title with such a weak cultivation base? Is it arrogance or ignorance? You are the legendary immortal Lord Yu? Sure enough, you have some skills. You actually managed to block my heaven-freezing 4th finger, which contained 70% of my magic power. Just now, I underestimated you and did not use my full strength. But this time, I won't hold back. Ning Fan was too lazy to listen to the nonsense of the three-fingered old devil. His body swayed slightly and a red light flashed. It was as if he had flown away from the black immortal clouds, but also as if he had never moved at all. At this moment, the primordial spirit of the three-fingered old devil was held in Ning Fan's hand. The three-fingered old devil who had lost his primordial spirit had a hideous bloody hole in his dantian. Blood was gushing out from the hole. His corpse carried an expression of disbelief. It had lost all of its vitality. Then, it was taken away by Ning Fan. In any case, It was the corpse of an immortal venerable. It was a material to refine the 10,000 spirit blood. Even though this immortal venerable's level was a little low as he was just a newly advanced immortal venerable. Hiss! All the cultivators of the White Bird Alliance were shocked by the shocking scene in front of them. The immortal Lord Yu actually failed to kill the arrogant three-fingered old devil in a single move. These two people were not on the same side. The dignified three-fingered old devil, a dignified immortal venerable, actually could not survive for more than half a breath in the hands of the immortal Lord Yu. How is this possible? I am the dignified number 1 devil of the Eastern Heaven. How could I be killed by you in a single move? The primordial spirit of the three-fingered old devil who was captured by Ning Fan was terrified. When he got close to Ning Fan, he could feel the immense baleful qi that Ning Fan was deliberately suppressing. What kind of terrifying killing qi was that? Could it be that this kid had even killed immortal emperors before? Moreover, he had killed more than one person? What kind of joke is this? The number 1 devil of the Eastern Heaven? If the number 1 devil of the Eastern Heaven is only at your level, there wouldn't be so many wars in the Eastern Heaven that no one can suppress. Ning Fan had never shown mercy to his enemies. He swallowed the three-fingered old devil's primordial spirit in a single gulp and devoured it. The terrifying scene once again made the cultivators of the White Bird Alliance pale. This was what it meant by seeing once was better than hearing 100 times. No matter how terrifying the immortal Lord Yu was in the rumors, they were just hearsay and lacked authenticity. Now that they witnessed Ning Fan's attack with their own eyes, they finally understood what it meant to be unrivaled. What it meant to be terrifying. What it meant to be a man-eat-man world. Reverse spirit. Ning Fan did not care about the war in the White Bird Galaxy. He used the reverse spirit technique and directly read everyone's memories, ignoring their will. The difference in their cultivation bases was too big. Even if these people wanted to resist, they could not do it. Moreover, none of them dared to resist Ning Fan's ability. Each of them kept quiet out of fear and did not even dare to breathe loudly. They just let Ning Fan read their memories, fearing that he would directly kill them all if they resisted. As Ning Fan's spirit sense became stronger, the damage caused by the reverse spirit technique to their sea of consciousness was almost non-existent. It would only make them feel a little dizzy. That was all. After a long time, Ning Fan finished reading their memories. He patted his storage pouch and took out some pills that he did not need. Then, he casually gave them to the mid-thought fragmentation realm expert who had the highest cultivation base among the survivors. These pills are the compensation for the information you provided. Farewell. As soon as he finished speaking, Ning Fan did not look at their reactions. He stepped on the black immortal cloud and instantly flew out of their vision. No one knew where he went. What a fast speed. Even immortal kings don't have such speed. Some of the survivors were astonished. The sense-opening pill. Lord Yu actually gave away such precious pills just like that. He's not here to kill us. He's just passing by. The old thought fragmentation realm expert who received the pills was pleasantly surprised. He cupped his fists and thanked Ning Fan. He was not only thanking Ning Fan for giving him the pills but also for killing old devil three-fingered and saving countless rogue cultivators in the White Bird Galaxy. Some of the female cultivators stared at the direction where Ning Fan left with sparkling eyes. They were lost in thought for a long time, as if they were admiring a hero. Ning Fan's killing qi was very frightening. However, in the eyes of some of the females, this kind of frightening was a kind of coldness and charm. Ning Fan's reputation was very bad. In addition to the intentional defamation of the dark race, he was a person who committed all kinds of crimes and bullied people in the eyes of the world. However, in the eyes of these cultivators in the White Bird Galaxy, even though Ning Fan's killing qi was very strong, he was not necessarily an unreasonable villain. No matter how bad he was at least 1,000 or 10,000 times better than a devil like Old Devil Three-Fingered. One should know that devils with a character like Old Devil Three-Fingered were as numerous as the stars in the sky in the Eastern Heaven immortal world. It was just that their cultivation bases varied. Even if Ning Fan's character was not good, he was not at the bottom of the list. I have an idea. Why don't we join the Thousand Autumn sect which is under Lord Yu? But Lord Yu is in big trouble. He has been targeted by the legendary secret race, Humph. If it wasn't for Lord Yu, we would have been killed by old devil Three-Finger just now. Even though we aren't good people, the words we must repay kindness are still the only creed of the White Bird Alliance. It's precisely because Lord Yu is in trouble that we have to help him with all our might. It's just death. Why should we be afraid of the secret race? Besides, the only half-step immortal venerable in the White Bird Alliance is already dead. If we don't join some major forces, I'm afraid we won't be able to survive. Of course, repaying kindness is the most important thing. A few months ago, that secret race sent a battle invitation to the Thousand Autumn sect. This matter had already spread across the Eastern Heaven. Given Lord Yu's personality, he would most likely join the battle. There's no limit to the number of helpers in this battle. Even though we aren't considered as the top forces, we can still stand behind Lord Yu and cheer for him. This little brother will bring some people to the Thousand Autumn sect and present them with gifts in order to become their subordinate force. Ning Fan did not know that he had just casually recruited a subordinate force for the Thousand Autumn sect. He did not care about what happened in the White Bird Star region at all. He killed old devil Three-Fingered not because he wanted to do something good. It was just a matter of convenience. Currently, after returning to the Eastern Heaven, he had already suppressed the sadness of killing the Sovereign Realm. Instead, it was replaced by worry. Firstly, he was worried about the first-grade quasi-saint Taoist Bai Zhu in the Extreme Dan Sacred Region. Secondly, he was worried about the battle invitation. When he left the Extreme Dan Sacred Region, the few quasi-saints had yet to return from the chaotic flow of space. However, if they return, they would certainly hunt him down. Fortunately, he had already left the Extreme Dan Sacred Region. Due to the existence of the Saint's Curse, the native quasi-saints of the Extreme Dan Sacred Region would not be able to chase him to the Eastern Heaven to kill him. However, that Taoist Bai Zhu who was on the same side as the Dark Race would eventually return to the Eastern Heaven. After he returns, he would most likely attack him because of what happened in the Extreme Dan Sacred Region. That person was a quasi-saint. To Ning Fan, he was definitely a problem. This was his first concern. He was not only worried about Taoist Bai Zhu's strength but also his special identity. This person seemed to be an ancient figure on the Devil Conferral Summit. Even the Radiant Buddha had heard of his name. When did the Devil Conferral Summit and the Dark Race get together? Didn't the Devil Conferral Summit perish in the ancient times? Why are there still surviving ancient devils appearing again and again? First, there was the Black Wings Great Devil who descended on the Divine Tomb. The might of his roar did not disperse even after 10 years. Then, there was Taoist Bai Zhu who was an ancient devil at the Devil Conferral Summit who suddenly appeared from the long river of history and sneaked into the Extreme Dan Sacred Region. It seemed like he was plotting something. This gave Ning Fan a sense of uneasiness, as if something big was brewing in the world. The more it was like this, the more Ning Fan would recall Naylan Zi's 3 Lives prophecy. I'm afraid this world won't be peaceful anymore. As for the battle invitation, Ning Fan had gathered a lot of information from Cultivator by Niao's memories. It had not been a long time since he entered the Extreme Dan Sacred Region. Even though the process was full of twists and turns, it was actually just a small trip that lasted slightly more than a year. Of course, Ning Fan, who had been cultivating in the Tower of Time for countless years, did not feel like only 1 year had passed. Instead, he felt like he had experienced many vicissitudes. This was just an exception. It had only been a year since the opening of the Extreme Dan Sacred Region. However, the major event that attracted the attention of the entire Eastern Heaven was no longer the opening of the Sacred Region but the Dark Race's challenge to the Thousand-Year Sect. A few months ago, the Dark Race sent someone to the Thousand-Year Sect and delivered a battle invitation to them. Before the ancient Chaos Great Emperor was eliminated, the Dark Race did not dare to take the initiative to attack Ning Fan. They only dared to do things behind his back. However, for some unknown reason, this time, the Dark Race actually came out to the open and delivered a battle invitation. They even announced this matter to the world. wanting to have a showdown with Ning Fan. The 100 sons of the dark race of the Dark Continent welcome the immortal monarch of rain in a battle to the death. If we win, the grudges between our race and the ancient Chaos Great Emperor will be resolved. If we lose, the successor of the ancient Chaos Great Emperor will have to commit suicide in front of the world. The cause and effect will have nothing to do with our race. Both parties can invite helpers. There is no limit to the number of helpers. However, immortal emperors are not allowed to join. This is fair. If the dignified immortal monarch Rain, the disciple of the ancient Chaos Great Emperor, does not dare to fight, then you will be a coward. You will become the laughingstock of the world and the shame of the Eastern Heaven forever. Ning Fan frowned. He could not figure out why the dark race would suddenly send out a battle invitation. Moreover, they chose to do so at such a strange time after he entered the Extreme Dan sacred region and before he returned. The timing seemed to be a little hasty. If they really wanted to fight, why didn't they send out a battle invitation before he entered the Extreme Dan sacred region? It gave people the feeling that the dark race suddenly had some plans after he entered the Extreme Dan sacred region and sent out a battle invitation in a hurry. Besides, is it necessary for the dark race to send their people who are below the immortal emperor realm to fight him to the death? Ancient Chaos Great Emperor is on the verge of death. Once his Tao is gone, the dark race can easily suppress him with their great army and kill him. Instead of arranging this matter, it's better to stop Ancient Chaos Great Emperor from prolonging his life. The battle invitation seems to be unnecessary. It also seems like they have other plans. There are many suspicious points about the battle invitation. However, even if the dark race does have a plan, I will not avoid this battle. There are some things that can never be avoided just by avoiding them. It's better to fight back with a heavy punch. Of course, before dealing with this matter, I have more important things to do. Returning to the Divine Tomb and prolonging Master Ancient Chaos Great Emperor's life is the most important thing. Also, I need to get a high-quality Dao land as soon as possible and plant a soul seed of Qingling. The Godly Void Pavilion might have a good Dao land. If there isn't, I will buy it directly from the heaven-reaching sect. Ning Fan's eyes turned gloomy. He drove the black immortal cloud even faster, anxious to return home. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.